Carl Taylor's life changes forever with a single, passionate encounter. The 28-year-old human engineer, stationed aboard the interstellar freighter Stardust Nomad, finds himself at the center of a galactic scandal that threatens to unravel decades of careful diplomacy between Earth and alien civilizations. It begins on Outpost Zeta 9, a bustling hub of interstellar commerce. The Stardust Nomad docks for a routine resupply, and Carl, eager for a break from the monotony of space travel, rents a room for some much-needed relaxation. He meets Aurora, a strikingly beautiful Krenim female, in the outpost's crowded cantina. Their eyes lock across the room, sparks fly, and before long, they're stumbling into Carl's rented quarters, caught in the throes of passion. Unbeknownst to the amorous pair, a critical malfunction in the station's privacy protocols turns their intimate moment into an unintended broadcast. Security feeds capture every detail of their encounter, streaming it across the station's network. Within hours, the footage spreads like wildfire through galactic communication channels, captivating billions of alien viewers fascinated by human mating rituals. The Galactic Council, alarmed by the potential diplomatic fallout, immediately summons Carl to appear before them. Meanwhile, Earth's government, fearing the incident could jeopardize humanity's standing in the galactic community, dispatches Major Sarah Blackwood and her crisis management team to contain the situation. As Carl grapples with his sudden notoriety, he learns that Aurora has vanished without a trace. Rumors swirl of her possible kidnapping by the Purity Front, an extremist anti-human group known for their violent opposition to interspecies relations. The disappearance adds fuel to the already raging fire of controversy. Diplomatic tensions escalate rapidly. Several alien races, citing humanity's dangerous influence on galactic society, demand that humans be quarantined to their solar system. Carl finds himself caught in a maelstrom of competing interests, facing an ultimatum that will determine not only his fate, but potentially that of his entire species. Find Aurora, make a public statement to quell interspecies tensions, or face exile from Earth and its colonies. As Carl navigates this complex web of galactic politics, he must also contend with a growing number of fanatics and stalkers obsessed with human sexuality. The attention is overwhelming, making his search for Aurora all the more challenging. But there's more at stake than just diplomatic relations. Carl's liaison with Aurora has inadvertently exposed a long-hidden secret about human Krenim genetic compatibility. This revelation threatens to upend established scientific understanding and could have far-reaching consequences for both species. With time running out and the fate of human-alien relations hanging in the balance, Carl must unravel the mystery of Aurora's disappearance while evading those who would exploit or harm him for his newfound celebrity status. The clock is ticking, and the eyes of the galaxy are fixed firmly on this accidental ambassador of human sexuality. Carl's head spun as he stepped off the shuttle onto Nexus Prime. The events of the past few days had transformed his life into a whirlwind of chaos, and now he found himself at the heart of a galactic controversy. As he approached the Galactic Council's headquarters, the massive crystalline structure loomed before him, its faceted surfaces refracting the light of 3 suns in a dazzling display. Taking a deep breath, Carl steeled himself and entered the Grand Assembly Hall. The cacophony of alien languages assaulted his ears as he walked down the central aisle, acutely aware of the countless eyes fixed upon him. Species he had only read about in xenobiology textbooks now scrutinized his every move, their curiosity palpable in the air. The council chair, Grand Arbiter Vox, called the session to order. Carl's palms grew clammy as he stood before the assembled representatives, his voice wavering as he attempted to explain the private nature of his encounter with Aurora. "Members of the Galactic Council," Carl began, "I assure you that what transpired between Aurora and myself was a consensual, private act. We had no intention." His words were drowned out by a sudden uproar. The Krenim ambassador, Zorthal, rose from his seat, his face contorted with anger. "This human's primitive mating rituals are corrupting our youth," he bellowed, pointing an accusing finger at Carl. "We demand immediate action to protect our society from Earth's degeneracy." Before Carl could respond, Dr. Zelnaga, the Galactic Council's lead scientist, interrupted the proceedings. The multi-limbed Quetzali female's voice cut through the commotion like a laser. "Esteemed colleagues, I have a crucial announcement. Our preliminary analysis of Carl Taylor and Aurora's genetic data has revealed a startling discovery. There appears to be a previously unknown compatibility between humans and Krenim." The assembly hall erupted into chaos. Carl watched in stunned silence as representatives from various species argued vehemently, their voices rising in a crescendo of concern and excitement. Some saw this revelation as a threat to the established galactic order, while others recognized its potential for groundbreaking research. Grand Arbiter Vox raised all four of his arms, calling for order. "This matter requires thorough investigation," he declared, his resonant voice silencing the chamber. "We will convene a special committee to study the implications of this genetic compatibility. In the meantime, Mr. Taylor will remain under the Council's supervision." As the session concluded, Carl felt a gentle tap on his shoulder. He turned to find himself face to face with Lyra, an Etherean female whose iridescent skin seemed to shimmer in the light. "Mr. Taylor," she said, her voice melodious and soothing, "I'm Lyra, a diplomat from Ether. I believe we can help each other." Carl listened intently as Lyra explained her species' genetic degradation issues and how the human-Krenim compatibility might hold the key to solving their problem. "If we work together to find Aurora," Lyra proposed, "we could uncover the truth behind this unique genetic link. It could benefit not just our species, but many others across the galaxy." Before Carl could respond, he caught sight of Major Sarah Blackwood striding purposefully towards him, flanked by her crisis management team. The Major's expression was grim as she approached. "Mr. Taylor," she said, her tone brooking no argument, "you're being placed under protective custody. We need to ensure your safety and prevent any further diplomatic incidents." As Carl was escorted away by Blackwood's team, he cast a final glance over his shoulder. His eyes widened as he spotted a group of hooded figures lurking in the shadows, their gaze fixed upon him. A chill ran down his spine as he recognized the unmistakable insignia of the Purity Front on their robes. The secure quarters assigned to Carl were luxurious, but felt more like a gilded cage. As he lay on the bed, staring at the alien constellations visible through the panoramic window, his mind raced. The gravity of his situation deeply affected upon him. He had become the unwitting catalyst for a potential shift in galactic politics, and the fate of human-alien relations now seemed to rest on his shoulders. In the darkness of his room, Carl's thoughts turned to Aurora. Where was she? Was she safe? The mystery of her disappearance gnawed at him, compounding his sense of helplessness. As exhaustion finally overtook him, Carl drifted into an uneasy sleep, his dreams filled with shadowy figures and the echoes of a billion curious alien voices. A sudden, piercing alarm jolted Carl from his fitful sleep. He bolted upright, heart pounding, as the room's soft lighting shifted to an urgent red glow. Before he could fully process what was happening, the door to his quarters burst open, revealing Major Sarah Blackwood's tense face. "Mr. Taylor, we need to move. Now!" she barked, her hand resting on the holstered weapon at her hip. Carl stumbled out of bed, his mind racing to catch up with the chaos unfolding around him. "What's going on?" "The Purity Front has launched a coordinated attack," Blackwood explained as she tossed him a protective vest. "They've hit multiple locations across the galaxy, including right here at the Galactic Council headquarters." As if to emphasize her words, a distant explosion rocked the building, sending tremors through the floor. Carl hurriedly donned the vest and followed Blackwood into the corridor, where alarms blared and panicked voices echoed from every direction. They sprinted through the winding hallways of the diplomatic quarters, Blackwood's crisis management team forming a protective perimeter around them. The acrid smell of smoke filled the air as they descended emergency stairwells, passing injured aliens and humans alike. "Watch your step," Blackwood warned as they navigated a section of corridor strewn with debris. Carl helped a dazed Quetzali diplomat to her feet, her iridescent feathers singed and ruffled. As they emerged into the grand plaza outside the council building, chaos reigned. Diplomats from dozens of species scrambled for safety, while security forces engaged with masked attackers. The air crackled with energy weapons fire and the hum of force fields. Suddenly, the sky above them flickered and a massive holographic projection materialized. Carl's breath caught in his throat as he recognized the imposing Krenim male displayed in larger-than-life detail. "Citizens of the galaxy," the figure's voice boomed, echoing across the plaza. "I am Vorkath, leader of the Purity Front. We have taken action to protect our cultures from the corrupting influence of humanity." Carl felt a chill run down his spine as Vorkath continued. "We hold the Krenim female Aurora in our custody. Our demands are simple. All humans must be immediately expelled from galactic society. Only then will the purity of our civilizations be preserved." The hologram vanished, leaving a stunned silence in its wake. Carl's mind reeled with the implications. Aurora was alive, but in the hands of fanatics. And now, the entire human race faced expulsion from the galactic community. A commotion to his left caught Carl's attention. Through the smoke and chaos, he spotted Lyra, the Etherean diplomat he'd met earlier, cornered by a group of Mass Purity Front militants. Without thinking, Carl broke away from Blackwood's protective circle. "Taylor, get back here," the major shouted, but Carl was already weaving through the crowd. As he approached Lyra's position, Carl's engineering instincts kicked in. He noticed a maintenance drone hovering nearby, its primary function disrupted by the attack. In a flash of inspiration, he pulled a multi-tool from his pocket and pried open the drone's access panel. His fingers flew over the drone's control circuits, reprogramming its behavior protocols. With a final adjustment, Carl activated the drone and watched as it zoomed towards the militants, emitting a high-pitched whine and erratic bursts of light. The distraction worked. The Purity Front members scattered, momentarily disoriented. Lyra seized the opportunity, her iridescent skin shimmering as she darted away from her attackers. "This way," Carl called, grabbing Lyra's hand and pulling her towards a service entrance he'd spotted. They ducked inside just as a fresh wave of explosions rocked the plaza. Lyra led Carl deeper into the building's substructure, her bioluminescent skin providing a soft glow in the dim passageway. "Thank you," Lyra said, her melodious voice tinged with relief. "I've been investigating the Purity Front for months. I never expected them to be so bold." Carl's curiosity piqued. "What have you discovered?" Lyra's expression grew serious. "Aurora's disappearance is no coincidence. It's connected to a secret genetic research facility on Epsilon Eridani 4. I believe a rogue faction within the Galactic Council is behind it all, experimenting with human-alien hybridization." Carl's mind raced with the implications. Could this be related to the genetic compatibility Dr. Zelnaga had mentioned? Before he could ask more questions, they heard footsteps echoing from further down the tunnel. Lyra tensed, ready for a confrontation, but as the figure emerged from the shadows, Carl recognized the distinctive features of Zorthal, the Krenim ambassador. "Don't be alarmed," Zorthal said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm here to help." Carl eyed him warily, remembering the ambassador's earlier hostility. "Why should we trust you?" Zorthal's expression softened. "I've seen the true face of extremism today. The Purity Front's actions. They go against everything I believe in. I was wrong to accuse humans of corrupting our society. Now, I want to make amends." The Krenim ambassador glanced over his shoulder before continuing. I have access to a stealth ship. I can help you reach Epsilon Eridani 4 to rescue Aurora and uncover the truth behind these experiments. Carl's personal communicator chirped, startling all three of them. He pulled it out, and his heart leaped as Aurora's holographic image flickered to life. Carl, her voice was strained, filled with urgency. I don't have much time. The experiments here, they're more advanced and dangerous than anyone realizes. You have to. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Carl staring at the empty space where Aurora's image had been. His determination hardened. He turned to Zorthal and Lyra, his decision made. Let's go, he said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. We need to get to that facility. As they made their way through the underground tunnels towards Zorthal's hidden ship, Carl's mind whirled with the enormity of what lay ahead. His simple liaison with Aurora had set in motion events that would challenge everything he thought he knew about humans, aliens, and life in the universe. The distant sounds of battle above served as a grim reminder of the chaos they were leaving behind. As they boarded the sleek, dark vessel that would carry them to Epsilon Eridani 4, Carl couldn't shake the feeling that this journey would change not just his life, but the course of galactic history. History, as the sleek vessel glided into the docking bay of Zorthal's stealth ship, the Shadow Whisper. Carl felt a mixture of anticipation and trepidation coursing through his veins. The ship's interior was a marvel of Krenim engineering, with smooth, curved surfaces and pulsing bioluminescent panels that cast a soft, ethereal glow. As they settled into the cockpit, Zorthal's hands danced across the controls, initiating the launch sequence. Engaging cloaking systems, the Krenim ambassador announced, his voice tinged with urgency. We'll be undetectable to both Council forces and Purity Front patrols. The ship hummed to life, its advanced technology vibrating beneath their feet as it lifted off. Through the view screen, Carl watched the chaos of Nexus Prime recede, replaced by the vast expanse of space. As they entered hyperspace, the stars stretched into brilliant streaks of light. In the relative calm of their journey, Carl's mind reeled from the rapid turn of events. Just days ago, he had been an ordinary engineer, focused on improving interspecies communication protocols. Now, he found himself at the center of a galactic crisis, racing across the cosmos to uncover a conspiracy that threatened the very fabric of interstellar society. Lyra's bioluminescent skin pulsed gently in the dim light of the cockpit as she turned to Carl. Are you all right? She asked, her melodious voice imbued with concern. Carl nodded, trying to gather his thoughts. It's just a lot to process. How did you get involved in all this, Lyra? The Etherean's iridescent eyes seemed to shimmer as she spoke. I've been investigating the Purity Front for months. Their xenophobic ideology poses a threat to many species, including my own, but I never imagined the scope of what we're dealing with now. Zorthal's voice cut through their conversation. We're approaching the Epsilon Eridani system. I think it's time I shared what I know about our destination. The Krenim ambassador's expression grew grave as he explained the nature of the secret genetic research facility. It's run by an organization known as the Chimera Consortium, a group of rogue scientists from various species. They believe that controlled hybridization is the key to solving many of the galaxy's genetic issues. Carl leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. How long has this been going on? Decades, Zorthal replied, his tone somber. They've used their influence within the Galactic Council to cover their tracks. The human Krenim compatibility. It was an unexpected breakthrough in their research. Before Carl could process this revelation, a light on the control panel began to pulse urgently. Zorthal's brow furrowed as he examined the incoming transmission. It's Ambassador Marcus Holloway, he announced, surprise evident in his voice. He's managed to track our location, despite the stealth technology. The human ambassador's holographic image flickered to life in the center of the cockpit. His expression was grim but determined. "Carl, I'm aware of your mission," Holloway began without preamble. "I'm here to offer my support. I'm transmitting access codes that will help you bypass the facility's security systems." Carl felt a surge of relief at the unexpected ally, but Holloway's next word sent a chill down his spine. "You need to hurry," the ambassador continued. "The United Earth government is under immense pressure. We have less than 48 hours before Earth potentially withdraws from all galactic affairs." As the transmission ended, the gravity of their situation settled over the group like a heavy shroud. The fate of human-alien relations hung in the balance, and time was running out. The shadow whisper descended through the atmosphere of Epsilon Eridani IV, a harsh desert world orbited by twin moons. As they landed, Carl could see the toxic, swirling clouds outside the view screen. "We'll need to don environmental suits," Zorthal announced, gesturing towards a storage compartment. "The atmosphere here is highly corrosive." Clad in their protective gear, the trio emerged from the ship onto the barren landscape. The twin moons loomed large in the alien sky, casting an eerie, double-shadowed light across the rocky terrain. Using Holloway's access codes, they bypassed the initial security checkpoints with ease. As they entered the facility, Carl's engineering background kicked in, noting the advanced technology that seemed to blend elements from multiple species. The sterile corridors led them deeper into the complex, where they encountered an unexpected figure. Dr. Zelnaga, the multi-limbed Quetzali female scientist from the Galactic Council hearing. "I wondered when someone would finally uncover our work here," she said, her voice a mix of resignation and pride. "I suppose it's fitting that it should be you, Mr. Taylor." Carl's mind raced as Dr. Zelnaga revealed her involvement with the Chimera Consortium, explaining how she had used her position on the Council to gather genetic data from various species. "The human-Krenim compatibility was beyond our wildest expectations," she continued, leading them through the facility. "Aurora's capture was necessary to further our studies." As they entered a vast chamber, Carl's breath caught in his throat. Rows upon rows of stasis pods lined the walls, each containing a developing embryo. The sight was both terrifying and fascinating, a glimpse into a future that blurred the lines between species. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the complex, red lights flashing urgently. Security footage on nearby screens showed Purity Front forces breaching the facility's outer defenses. "They've found us!" Lyra exclaimed, her bioluminescence flaring with alarm. The screens flickered, and Vorkatha's imposing visage appeared, his voice booming through the facility. "Destroy all research data," the Purity Front leader demanded. "Execute the scientists. We will cleanse this abomination from the galaxy." In the chaos that ensued, Carl's thoughts turned to Aurora. He had to find her before it was too late. "Where is she?" he demanded, turning to Dr. Zelnaga. The Quetzali scientist hesitated for a moment before responding. "High Security Wing, Section Delta. But you must hurry." Carl raced through the corridors, his heart pounding in his chest. The sounds of battle grew closer as Purity Front forces pushed deeper into the facility. He found Aurora in a sealed chamber, weakened but alive. As the door slid open, their eyes met, and for a moment, the chaos around them faded away. "Carl," Aurora whispered, her voice hoarse. "You came." As he helped her to her feet, the weight of their connection and the consequences of their brief encounter settled over them. But there was no time for reunions or explanations. "We need to move," Carl urged, supporting Aurora as they made their way back to the others. They regrouped with Lyra, Zorthal, and Dr. Zelnaga in the main research chamber. The Quetzali scientist's expression was grave as she turned to Carl. "There's something you need to know," she said, gesturing towards a specific stasis pod. "Among these embryos is one created from your and Aurora's genetic material. a human Krenim hybrid that could represent a new chapter in galactic evolution. Carl stared at the pod, his mind turning from the implications. The choice before him suddenly became infinitely more complex. The facility shook with another explosion, closer this time. Vorkatha's forces were nearly upon them. "We need to make a decision," Zorthal urged. "Destroy the research as the Purity Front demands, or preserve it and risk further conflict." Carl looked from the stasis pods to Aurora, then to his unlikely allies. The fate of not just this research, but potentially the entire galaxy, rested on his next move. The alarms continued to blare, a constant reminder of the closing window of opportunity. Carl's hand hovered over the control panel, the weight of his impending decision pressing down on him like a physical force. Time seemed to slow as Carl's mind raced through the implications of his choice. In a split-second decision, he pulled his hand back from the control panel. "No," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We're not destroying this research." Aurora's eyes widened in surprise, but she nodded in agreement. Carl turned to Dr. Zelnaga, his expression determined. "We need to preserve this data. It could be the key to solving genetic issues across multiple species." Without hesitation, Carl pulled out a quantum drive from his pocket and began downloading the entire database. The facility shook violently as another explosion rocked the structure. "We don't have much time," Zorthal warned, his eyes darting nervously to the entrance. As the download completed, Carl pocketed the drive securely. Dr. Zelnaga hurried over to a row of stasis pods, her multiple limbs working frantically to disconnect one. "This contains the human Krenim hybrid," she explained. "We can't leave it behind." Carl rushed to help her, carefully disconnecting the life support systems and securing the pod for transport. As they worked, Lyra's bioluminescent skin flashed an alarm. "Purity Front forces are breaching the outer defenses," she announced, her melodious voice tight with tension. The group moved swiftly through the facility, alarms blaring and emergency lights casting an eerie red glow over everything. They navigated through winding corridors, the sound of distant gunfire growing closer with each passing moment. As they rounded a corner, they found themselves face to face with a squad of Purity Front militants. At their head stood Vorkath, his imposing figure radiating malevolence. "Surrender the abominations," he snarled, raising his weapon. In response, Zorthal drew a sleek Krenim energy pistol from beneath his robes. "I may be a diplomat," he said, his voice steady, "but I'm not defenseless." The corridor erupted into chaos as both sides opened fire. Carl and Aurora ducked behind a fallen piece of equipment. The stasis pod clutched protectively between them. Lyra's bioluminescent skin pulsed rapidly, creating disorienting patterns that confused the Purity Front soldiers. Zorthal moved with surprising agility, his diplomatic training translating unexpectedly well to combat. He fired his weapon with precision, each shot finding its mark. As the firefight intensified, a stray blast struck a nearby power conduit. The resulting explosion sent shockwaves through the corridor, causing the ceiling to collapse between Carl and Aurora and the rest of their group. "Carl, Aurora," Lyra's voice called out from the other side of the debris. "Are you all right?" "We're okay," Carl shouted back, coughing from the dust. "But we're cut off. We'll find another way out." With no time to clear the rubble, Carl and Aurora were forced to find an alternate route. They moved deeper into the facility, the hybrid stasis pod held carefully between them. "This way," Aurora said, gesturing towards a maintenance corridor. "I recognize some of this Krenim technology. There might be an emergency exit." As they navigated through increasingly unstable sections of the facility, Carl marveled at how seamlessly they worked together. Aurora's familiarity with Krenim systems complemented his engineering expertise perfectly. They emerged into a vast hangar, filled with experimental spacecraft unlike anything Carl had ever seen. His eyes were drawn to a sleek, two-person vessel at the center of the room. "That's our way out," he said, moving towards it. As they approached the ship, Carl noticed an unusual control panel near the entrance. It pulsed with a soft, bioluminescent light. "It's a biometric interface," Aurora explained, her voice tinged with awe. "But it's not responding to either of us individually." The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the hangar. They were running out of time. Carl's mind raced, considering their options. Suddenly, a wild idea struck him. "Our compatibility," he said, turning to Aurora. "What if the ship responds to our combined genetic signature?" Understanding dawned in Aurora's eyes. Without a word, she moved closer to Carl. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the chaos around them faded away. As their lips met in a passionate embrace, the ship's systems hummed to life, responding to their unique biosignatures. The hangar doors burst open, Vorkath and his troops pouring in. But it was too late. Carl and Aurora broke apart, rushing into the now active ship. As the Purity Front forces opened fire, the vessel's engines roared to life. With a burst of energy, the ship launched out of the hangar, narrowly avoiding the collapsing facility. As they broke through the planet atmosphere, Carl and Aurora watched in stunned silence as the research complex imploded, disappearing beneath the swirling sands of Epsilon Eridani 4. As the adrenaline of their escape began to subside, Carl became acutely aware of the advanced systems surrounding them. The ship seemed to anticipate their needs, adjusting course and speed with minimal input. "Carl," Aurora said softly, her eyes fixed on a flashing communication panel. "We're receiving a transmission." Carl activated the comm system, and Ambassador Holloway's holographic image appeared before them. His expression was grave. "Carl, Aurora, thank God you're alive," Holloway began. "The situation has escalated beyond our worst fears. The attack on the research facility has pushed human-alien relations to the brink. The United Earth government is preparing to vote on a complete withdrawal from galactic affairs." Carl felt the weight of this news settle over him. He looked at Aurora, then at the stasis pod containing their hybrid embryo, and finally at the quantum drive in his pocket. In that moment, he realized that their journey was a long way to go. "We're heading to Earth," Carl announced, his voice filled with purpose. "We have the evidence and the means to prevent this withdrawal." As Holloway's image faded, Carl set the coordinates for Earth. The ship responded instantly, its advanced propulsion system engaging smoothly. Aurora placed her hand on Carl's shoulder, her touch a comforting presence. "We're going to change everything, aren't we?" she asked, her voice a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Carl nodded, his eyes fixed on the star-filled expanse before them. "Together," he replied, as their unique vessel carried them towards an uncertain future, and the fate of human-alien relations hung in the balance. Balance hung in the balance. As they pushed deeper into space, the advanced systems surrounding them began to falter. "Carl, something's wrong," Aurora said, her voice tight with concern. The ship's control panel flickered erratically, casting an eerie glow across her features. Carl's hands flew over the controls, his engineering instincts kicking in. "The biometric interface is destabilizing," he muttered, brow furrowed in concentration. "It's like the ship can't decide how to interpret our combined signatures." Power surges rippled through the vessel, causing the lights to dim and brighten in rapid succession. The navigation system sputtered, sending them veering off course. Aurora leaned in, her fingers dancing across the alien symbols on the screen. "I recognize some of these Krenim algorithms," she said. "If we can isolate the main power coupling, we might be able to reroute the energy flow." They worked in tandem, Carl's human engineering expertise complementing Aurora's knowledge of Krenim technology. As they struggled to stabilize the ship's core systems, a massive object appeared on their sensors. Carl looked. Aurora gasped, pointing at the view screen. A colossal fleet materialized before them, dwarfing their small vessel. At its center loomed the Axiom warship Justicar, its imposing silhouette blocking out the stars. The communication panel crackled to life, and the stern visage of Grand Arbiter Vox filled the screen. His multiple eyes narrowed as he spoke, his voice resonating with authority. Unidentified vessel. This is Grand Arbiter Vox of the Galactic Council Peacekeeping Fleet. You are hereby ordered to power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. The destruction of the research facility on Epsilon Eridani 4 has forced us to declare a state of emergency. All parties involved must be detained for questioning. Carl and Aurora exchanged worried glances. Before they could respond, a second transmission cut through the tense silence. The image was distorted, but they recognized Dr. Zelnaga's distinctive features. Carl, Aurora, listen carefully. The Quetzali scientist's voice came through, laden with urgency. Do not surrender to the Council. There are factions working with the Purity Front to suppress the truth about human-alien compatibility. You must evade capture and meet us at the coordinates I'm transmitting. The future of galactic relations depends on it. As the transmission ended, Carl and Aurora found themselves at a crossroads. The Galactic Council fleet loomed before them, while Dr. Zelnaga's warning echoed in their minds. What do we do? Aurora asked, her eyes searching Carl's face for answers. Carl's mind raced, weighing their options. Suddenly, an idea struck him. The ship's malfunctioning systems, he said, a glint of willpower in his eyes. We can use them to our advantage. Working quickly, Carl began to manipulate the ship's power distribution. If we can trigger a controlled overload, he explained, we might be able to create an electromagnetic pulse strong enough to disable their systems temporarily. Aurora caught on immediately, her fingers flying over the Krenim interface to assist. Redirecting power to the main emitter array, she confirmed. The ship's energy core hummed dangerously as they pushed it beyond its limits. Warning alarms blared, but Carl and Aurora pressed on, their movements perfectly synchronized. Now! Carl shouted, slamming his hand down on the activation panel. A blinding pulse of energy erupted from their vessel, expanding outward in a rippling wave. The lights on the Galactic Council ships flickered and died, their weapon systems powering down. It worked! Aurora exclaimed, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with excitement. Carl wasted no time, pushing their hybrid vessel to its limits. They weaved through the disabled fleet, narrowly avoiding collisions as they made their escape. As they left the Council ships behind, Carl plotted a course for the coordinates Dr. Zelnaga had provided. Their journey took them through treacherous asteroid fields and swirling nebulae, each obstacle pushing their piloting skills to the limit. During a rare moment of calm, Aurora turned to Carl, her expression vulnerable. Carl, I never imagined any of this when we first met, she said softly. Our connection. It's changed everything. Carl reached out, taking her hand in his. The ship's biometric interface pulsed in response to their touch. I know, he replied, his voice gentle. Whatever happens, we're in this together. Their moment was interrupted by a proximity alert. As they emerged from a dense cluster of stellar debris, an enormous structure came into view. An ancient space station, its architecture unlike anything they had ever seen, hung suspended in the swirling colors of the Orion Nebula. This must be the rendezvous point, Carl said in awe as they approached the station. As they docked their ship, a holographic interface materialized before them, requesting a genetic sample for entry. Carl and Aurora exchanged glances, understanding dawning between them. Our compatibility, Aurora whispered. It might be the key. Together, they provided the sample. The station systems whirred to life, ancient mechanisms awakening after eons of dormancy. As the airlock cycled open, Carl and Aurora stepped into the unknown, the secrets of the galaxy waiting to be unveiled before them. The vast chamber they entered was illuminated by soft, pulsating bioluminescent lights. Terminals and strange devices lined the walls, their purpose a mystery. As they ventured deeper into the station, they became aware of movement in the shadows. "We're not alone," Carl murmured, instinctively moving closer to Aurora. From the recesses of the chamber emerged a diverse group of individuals, representatives from various species, all regarding Carl and Aurora with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Among them stood a human woman with sharp, intelligent eyes. "Welcome to the nexus of life," she said, stepping forward. "I'm Dr. Elena Rossi. We've been expecting you." As Carl and Aurora attempted to process this new development, a distant rumble shook the station. Dr. Rossi's expression darkened. "It seems we have company," she said grimly. "The Council has found us sooner than we anticipated." Carl and Aurora shared a determined look. They had come too far to turn back now. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, standing at the threshold of a new era for galactic civilization. Civilization. As Carl and Aurora processed Dr. Rossi's warning, the station shuddered again, more violently this time. "They're here," Dr. Rossi said, her voice taut with tension. "We need to act fast." No sooner had the words left her mouth than the ancient space station began to hum with energy. Lights flickered to life along the walls, and hidden panels slid open to reveal an array of advanced technology. "What's happening?" Carl asked, instinctively moving closer to Aurora. Dr. Rossi's eyes widened in awe. "The station. It's responding to our presence." As if on cue, a holographic interface materialized before them, displaying a complex network of systems coming online. Massive energy shields enveloped the station, their shimmering surface visible through the viewport. Hidden weapon arrays emerged from the outer hull, primed and ready. "It's protecting us," Aurora breathed, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with excitement. Dr. Rossi quickly ushered them towards a central corridor. "This way," she said urgently. "There's something you need to see." They rushed through winding passages, the diverse group of aliens and humans following close behind. As they ran, Carl couldn't help but notice how the station seemed to react to their presence, doors sliding open automatically and lights guiding their way. They emerged into a vast circular chamber dominated by a central pillar of pulsating energy. Surrounding it were numerous control stations, each displaying incomprehensible data streams and star charts. "This is the heart of the nexus," Dr. Rossi explained, her fingers flying over a nearby console. "It contains a powerful transmission array capable of broadcasting across the entire galaxy." Carl and Aurora exchanged a meaningful look. "This could be our chance," Carl said, his voice filled with purpose. "We could reveal the truth about interspecies compatibility and the progenitor's plan to everyone." As they approached the central controls, the station systems reacted once again. The interface before them shifted, reconfiguring itself in response to their unique genetic signatures. "It's recognizing us," Aurora said in wonder, her hand intertwining with Carl's. Suddenly, the station's AI materialized before them, a shimmering holographic form composed of intricate geometric patterns. Its voice resonated throughout the chamber, a harmonious blend of tones. "Welcome, inheritors," the AI intoned. "Your combined human-crenum genetic signature has activated the progenitor protocol. Full access to all systems granted." Before they could fully process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the station. Dr. Zelnaga's voice came through the communication system, urgent and focused. "The Galactic Council fleet has arrived," the Quetzali scientist reported. "Grand Arbiter Vox's flagship Justicar is leading the charge." Carl and Aurora sprang into action, their movements perfectly synchronized as they interfaced with the station's advanced systems. The control room came alive around them, holographic displays, showing the approaching fleet and the station's defensive capabilities. "We need to buy time," Carl said, his hands dancing over the controls. "Can we establish communication with the fleet?" As if in response, a familiar face appeared on the main view screen. Lyra, her expression a mix of commitment and hope, nodded to them. "I'm already on it," she said. "I'll do my best to negotiate, but be prepared for anything." As Lyra's image faded, replaced by tactical displays of the unfolding battle, Carl and Aurora focused on coordinating the station's defenses. Energy beams lanced out from the nexus, precisely targeting the weapon systems of the approaching ships without causing catastrophic damage. "We're not trying to destroy them," Aurora explained to the others gathered in the control room. "Just disable them long enough to get our message out." As the battle raged outside, Carl and Aurora delved deeper into the station's database. What they found sent shockwaves through the entire group. "This can't be," Carl muttered, his eyes wide as he scrolled through the data. "What is it?" Dr. Rossi asked, leaning in to see. Aurora's voice was filled with disbelief as she explained. "The Purity Front. It's not what we thought. It's a puppet organization controlled by a secret faction within the Galactic Council itself." The revelation hung heavy in the air, the implications staggering. As they processed this new information, a proximity alert sounded. A small, sleek ship had broken through the chaos of the battle, making a beeline for the nexus. "Another hostile?" Dr. Zelnaga asked, his tentacles twitching nervously. But Carl recognized the ship's design. "No," he said, a smile spreading across his face. "It's a friend." Moments later, Ambassador Marcus Holloway strode into the control room, his usually impeccable suit slightly disheveled. In his hand, he clutched a data crystal. "I hope I'm not too late to join the party," he said, his eyes twinkling with a mix of exhaustion and excitement. "I've got something that might turn the tide in our favor." As Holloway quickly briefed him on his undercover work and the evidence he had gathered, Carl and Aurora exchanged a look of silent communication. They knew what they had to do. "We're going to broadcast everything," Carl announced, his voice steady and will-powered. "The truth about the progenitors, our compatibility, the Singularity Cabal's manipulation, all of it." Aurora nodded, her hand finding Carl's once again. "We'll show them our story, our bond. Let the galaxy see what's possible when we come together." As they prepared to initiate the galaxy-wide broadcast, the battle outside intensified. The Nexus shuddered under the assault, its shields flickering but holding. Carl and Aurora stood at the heart of the storm, their fingers intertwined as they faced the communications array. With a shared breath and a nod, they activated the transmission. The future of the stars hung in the balance as their story, their truth, began to spread across the stars. The vast expanse of the cosmos. For several tense moments, Carl and Aurora held their breath, watching as the transmission status indicators flickered across the holographic display. Suddenly, the chamber erupted in a cacophony of incoming messages. Screens lit up with responses from every corner of the galaxy, a tide of information washing over them. "It's working," Aurora breathed, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with excitement. "They're receiving our broadcast." The battle outside the Nexus seemed to pause as the revelation spread. Ships hung motionless in space, their weapons powered down as crews absorbed the shocking truth. Ambassador Holloway's eyes darted across the incoming data streams. "The response is overwhelming. We're seeing reactions from thousands of worlds, major governments, even isolated colonies." Dr. Rossi's fingers flew over a nearby console. "The Galactic Council is calling for an immediate emergency session. They're requesting the Nexus as a neutral meeting ground." Carl and Aurora exchanged a look of cautious optimism. "This is our chance," Carl said, squeezing Aurora's hand. "We can finally bring everything into the open." As if in response to their thoughts, The station's AI materialized before them. Inheritors, the nexus stands ready to facilitate this gathering. Shall I prepare the Grand Assembly Hall? Aurora nodded. Yes, please. And can you compile all the relevant data from the progenitor archives? We'll need every piece of evidence we can get. Over the next few hours, the nexus of life transformed. The ancient station, dormant for eons, now hummed with activity as it prepared to host representatives from across the galaxy. Carl and Aurora worked tirelessly alongside Dr. Rossi and Dr. Zelnaga, translating complex genetic data into easily understandable presentations. As delegates began to arrive, the couple found themselves thrust into the role of mediators. Species that had been bitter enemies for generations now stood side by side, united in their desire for answers. The Vroktar delegation has concerns about genetic dilution, Ambassador Holloway reported, looking weary but determined. They're willing to listen, but we need to address their fears head-on. Carl nodded, already formulating a response. We'll show them the progenitor data on genetic diversity. It might help them see the potential benefits. As they moved through the growing crowd, a commotion near the docking bay caught their attention. A group of agitated delegates surrounded a striking cephalon female, her tentacles writhing with barely held back energy. That's Dr. Zuravex, Dr. Zelnaga whispered, his own tentacles twitching nervously. Brilliant geneticist, but her methods are controversial, to say the least. Dr. Vex's voice carried across the chamber. Why waste time with bureaucracy? The technology is here, now. We could begin widespread hybridization immediately. Her words sent a ripple of unease through the gathered representatives. Carl and Aurora exchanged a worried glance, recognizing the potential for conflict. We need to intervene, Aurora said, already moving towards a group. Carl followed close behind, their steps in perfect sync. As they approached, Dr. Vex's gaze locked onto them. Her eyes widened with recognition and awe-inspiring excitement. Ah, the catalysts themselves. Surely you understand the importance of immediate action? Carl raised his hands in a calming gesture. Dr. Vex, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but this isn't a decision to be made lightly. The ethical implications alone. Ethics, Dr. Vex scoffed. We're on the brink of a new era for our species, all our species. We can't let outdated morality hold us back. Aurora stepped forward, her bioluminescent markings pulsing in a soothing pattern. We understand the desire for progress, Dr. Vex. But forced hybridization goes against everything the progenitors intended. We need to approach this carefully with full consent and understanding from all involved. The tension in the air was palpable as Dr. Vex considered their words. Finally, she relented, though her eyes still burned with ambition. Very well. I'll present my case to the full assembly. But mark my words, time is of the essence. As Dr. Vex moved away, Carl and Aurora found themselves surrounded by curious delegates, each eager to share their own experiences and concerns. The couple listened patiently, offering reassurances and explanations where they could. A commotion at the main entrance drew their attention. A group of human military officers entered, led by a tall, imposing figure with steely eyes and a bearing that commanded respect. Ambassador Holloway hurried over to greet them. Commander Stormwind, I'm glad you made it. The commander nodded curtly. We came as soon as we received your message, Ambassador. I have data on the Singularity Cabal's operations that the Council needs to see. As Holloway introduced Commander Stormwind to Carl and Aurora, the station's AI materialized once again. Inheritors, the Grand Assembly Hall is prepared. The Galactic Council representatives request your presence to begin the proceedings. Carl took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Aurora's hand found his, their fingers intertwining. Together, they made their way towards the heart of the nexus, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest for galactic harmony. As they entered the vast chamber, hundreds of eyes turned to watch them. The fate of countless worlds hung in the balance, and the next few hours would determine the course of galactic history. Carl and Aurora exchanged a final look of persistence before stepping forward to address the assembled delegates. Their voices united as they began to share their vision for a new era of interspecies cooperation. Cooperation. As Carl and Aurora's voices resonated through the grand assembly hall, the gathered delegates listened intently, their expressions a mix of curiosity, skepticism, and hope. For days, the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with intense debate. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy took turns questioning Carl and Aurora about their unique bond and the implications of widespread interspecies compatibility. The couple found themselves under constant scrutiny, their every interaction analyzed and discussed. "Tell us," a Vroktar delegate asked, his gravelly voice echoing through the chamber, "how does this genetic resonance manifest in your daily lives?" Carl glanced at Aurora, their fingers unconsciously intertwining. "It's not just physical," he explained. "We share a deep empathic connection. Our thoughts, our emotions, they're in perfect harmony." The assembly hall erupted in murmurs and excited chittering. A Cephalon scientist leaned forward, her tentacles twitching with scarcely controlled excitement. "Fascinating. We must study this phenomenon further. Perhaps a series of controlled experiments." Before the scientist could finish, alarms blared throughout the station. The holographic displays flickered, showing a schematic of the nexus of life, with one section pulsing an angry red. "Warning," the station's AI announced, its usually calm voice tinged with urgency. "Unauthorized access detected in Auxiliary Control Room 7. Genetic modification protocols activated." Chaos erupted in the chamber as delegates scrambled to understand what was happening. Ambassador Holloway's voice cut through the din. "It's Dr. Vex. She's trying to force the hybridization process." Carl and Aurora exchanged a worried glance, their bodies already moving in sync towards the exit. As they reached the corridor, a wave of energy pulsed through the station, causing the walls to vibrate and the lights to flicker. Aurora gasped, her bioluminescent markings flaring brilliantly. "Carl, I feel different." Carl nodded, his own body tingling with newfound energy. "Me too. It's like our hybrid traits are intensifying." Around them, other occupants of the station were experiencing their own transformations. A Quetzali diplomat's feathers shimmered and changed color, while a human scientist's skin took on a metallic sheen. Commander Stormwind's voice crackled over the station's communication system. "Taylor, Aurora, we need you at the Central Control Hub. Your connection to the progenitor tech might be our best shot at containing this." As they navigated the chaotic corridors, Carl and Aurora marveled at their enhanced abilities. Carl's reflexes were sharper, allowing him to deftly maneuver around panicked delegates. Aurora found she could instinctively interface with the station's systems, doors sliding open at her mere thought. They rounded a corner and came face to face with a group of Vroktar warriors, their bodies bulging with new muscle mass. The lead Vroktar roared, confusion and fear evident in his eyes. "Stop!" Carl shouted, his voice carrying an unexpected authority. "We're not your enemies. We're all in this together." To their surprise, the Vroktar hesitated, then stepped aside. Aurora placed a hand on Carl's shoulder. "Your voice, it carried some kind of calming influence." They pressed on, using their new abilities to bypass security measures and help other transformed beings along the way. As they approached the Central Control Hub, they heard the sounds of a struggle within. The door slid open to reveal Dr. Zara Vex, her form grotesquely altered. Multiple limbs writhed from her torso, and her eyes glowed with an unnatural light. "Ah, the catalysts arrive," she hissed, her voice distorted. "Come to witness the birth of a new galactic order?" Carl stepped forward, his stance protective. Dr. Vex, this isn't the way. You're putting everyone at risk. Vex laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally. Risk? I'm freeing them from the shackles of their limited forms. She lashed out with her new appendages, catching Carl off guard and sending him sprawling. Aurora reacted instinctively, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with energy. A force field materialized between them and Vex. Carl scrambled to his feet, marveling at Aurora's newfound power. Together, they faced the altered scientist, their movements perfectly synchronized. Vex's attacks were relentless, her augmented form granting her incredible strength and agility. Carl and Aurora found themselves on the defensive, their newly enhanced reflexes barely keeping pace. Just as Vex seemed to gain the upper hand, the doors burst open again. Commander Stormwind led a team of security personnel, their weapons trained on the scientist. "Stand down, Dr. Vex," Stormwind ordered, his voice firm. The momentary distraction was all Carl and Aurora needed. Moving as one, they flanked Vex, using their combined strength to subdue her. As Vex struggled in their grasp, Aurora's eyes locked onto the station's main control interface. "Carl, I think I can stabilize the system," she said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "But I'll need your help." He nodded, understanding without words. Together, they approached the central console, their hands moving in perfect unison across the alien controls. The station hummed around them, responding to their combined genetic signature. Slowly, the chaotic energy waves began to subside. Throughout the nexus of life, beings felt their transformation stabilize, no longer shifting uncontrollably, but settling into new, hybrid forms. As the immediate crisis passed, Carl and Aurora turned to face the assembled crowd of security personnel and transformed delegates. The air was thick with tension and uncertainty. Commander Stormwind stepped forward, his expression a mix of awe and concern. "Well done, you two. But I think we all know this is just the beginning. The Council will have to reconvene immediately to address all of this." Carl and Aurora exchanged a look, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on their shoulders. The debates that would follow would shape the future of the galaxy, and their unique position as bridges between species would be more crucial than ever. As they prepared to return to the Council chambers, Carl squeezed Aurora's hand. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their bond stronger than ever in the wake of this unprecedented transformation. Genetic alterations. The air in the Council chambers crackled with tension as delegates grappled with the implications of their new hybrid states. Carl's skin tingled, a faint blue luminescence pulsing beneath the surface. He glanced at Aurora, whose eyes shimmered with an intensity he'd never seen before. Their connection, already profound, had deepened into something beyond words. "We need to address this immediately," Ambassador Holloway's voice cut through the din. "The galaxy will be looking to us for answers." Dr. Elena Rossi, a human xenobiologist, stepped forward. "We've established an emergency medical facility within the Nexus. We need volunteers for initial examinations." Without hesitation, Carl and Aurora approached Dr. Rossi. "We'll go first," Carl said, his voice steady despite the uncertainty churning inside him. As they followed Dr. Rossi to the makeshift lab, whispers and stares trailed in their wake. The facility buzzed with activity, screens displaying cascades of genetic data and vital signs from affected delegates. Dr. Zelnaga, his tentacles weaving complex patterns in the air, greeted them at the entrance. "Thank you for volunteering. Your unique human Krenim compatibility makes you ideal subjects for our initial studies." Over the next several hours, Carl and Aurora underwent a battery of tests. Blood samples were taken, brainwave patterns analyzed, and their ability to interface with progenitor technology was put through rigorous trials. During a brief respite, Carl placed his hand on a nearby console. To his shock, The entire system lit up, responding to his touch in ways it never had before. "Aurora, look at this." She joined him, her fingers intertwining with his on the console's surface. The reaction intensified, and suddenly, a hidden panel slid open in the wall beside them. "Fascinating," Dr. Zelnaga exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. "Your combined genetic signature seems to have unlocked a previously inaccessible area of the nexus." Before they could explore further, Carl doubled over, his skin flaring with brilliant bioluminescence. Aurora gasped, overwhelmed by a surge of empathic sensitivity that left her reeling. Dr. Rossi rushed to their side, scanner in hand. "These changes are accelerating. We need to stabilize them before." Her words were cut short as alarms blared throughout the station. Ambassador Holloway's voice came over the intercom, tight with urgency. "All delegates report to the main chamber immediately. We have a developing situation." Pushing through their discomfort, Carl and Aurora made their way back to the council chambers. The scene that greeted them was one of impossibly strong chaos. Holographic displays showed footage from various worlds across the galaxy. Crowds had gathered, some in celebration, others in protest. The words "Harmony Initiative" flashed across news tickers in a dozen different languages. Ambassador Holloway stood at the center of it all, his face grim. "The news of our transformation has spread faster than we anticipated. We're receiving reports of unrest on multiple worlds." A Vulcan delegate, his scales overflowing with agitation, spoke up. "This is precisely why we should have proceeded with caution. We've unleashed a panic." "No," Carl said, stepping forward. All eyes turned to him, his skin still faintly glowing. "We've unleashed potential. Look at what Aurora and I can do now. This isn't something to fear. It's something to understand." Aurora nodded, her voice carrying a new depth of emotion. "We need to show the galaxy that this change can be a force for unity, not division." Ambassador Holloway's eyes lit up. "That's it. We need to take this message directly to the people." He turned to address the entire assembly. "I propose a galactic tour. Carl and Aurora will visit key worlds, demonstrating the benefits of controlled hybridization and addressing concerns firsthand." The chamber erupted in a flurry of debate. After hours of heated discussion, a consensus was reached. The tour would proceed, with Carl and Aurora as its centerpiece. As preparations began, a new face joined their team. Captain Zira Vox, an Axiom pilot renowned for her navigation skills, strode into the briefing room. Her sharp eyes took in Carl and Aurora with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "I've been assigned to pilot your vessel, the Cosmic Fusion," she announced, her tone clipped. "I hope you understand the risks we're taking by parading you across the galaxy." Carl met her gaze steadily. "We understand, Captain, but the potential benefits far outweigh the risks." As they made final preparations to depart, the station's communication array crackled to life. A garbled message cut through the static, its urgency palpable even through the distortion. "Warning. Purists. Drakthor. Stop at all costs." The message cut out, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Captain Vox's hand moved to her sidearm, her expression hardening. "It seems our journey may be more dangerous than anticipated," she said, her eyes scanning the stars visible through the viewport. "The purists are no joke. If they're involved, we'll need to be on high alert." Carl and Aurora exchanged a look, their newfound connection allowing them to communicate volumes without a word. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As the Cosmic Fusion prepared for departure, its sensors detected multiple unidentified vessels converging on their position. The Galactic tour, meant to be a mission of diplomacy and understanding, now carried the weight of potential conflict. With a final check of systems, Captain Vox engaged the ship's engines. The cosmic fusion glided out of the nexus of life's docking bay, accelerating into the vast expanse of space. Their first destination, Krenim Prime, where they hoped to find allies in a galaxy teetering on the brink of change. As stars streaked past the viewports, Carl and Aurora stood side by side on the bridge, their hybrid forms a living testament to the potential they carried. The journey ahead would test not only their new abilities, but the very fabric of galactic society itself. The cosmic fusion glided out of the nexus of life's docking bay, its sleek form accelerating into the vastness of space. Carl and Aurora stood side by side on the bridge, their hybrid forms a testament to the potential they carried. As stars streaked past the viewports, Captain Zero Vox's hands danced across the control panel, her eyes narrowing as she studied the sensor readouts. "We've got company," she announced, her voice tight with tension. "Multiple unidentified vessels converging on our position." Aurora leaned forward, her newly enhanced senses tingling. "They don't feel friendly." Captain Vox's fingers flew over the controls, initiating evasive maneuvers. The cosmic fusion banked sharply, diving into a dense field of asteroids. Carl stumbled, catching himself on a nearby console. As his hand made contact, the ship system surged with energy, responding to his touch in ways they never had before. "Hold on," Vox called out as she expertly wove through the asteroid field, the pursuing ships hot on their tail. Carl's skin began to glow, a bright bioluminescence pulsing beneath the surface. The intensity increased rapidly, bathing the bridge in a blinding blue light. Vox squinted, struggling to see her instruments. "Carl, tone it down," she shouted, her hands gripping the controls tightly. "I can't control it," he gasped, his voice strained. "It's reacting to the adrenaline." Aurora reached out, placing a hand on Carl's arm. As their skin made contact, a wave of calm washed over him, and the glow subsided to a manageable level. But the moment of respite was short-lived. The pursuing ships, now clearly identifiable as Purist vessels, opened fire. The cosmic fusion rocked under the barrage, a glancing hit sending sparks flying from a nearby console. "Propulsion system damaged," Vox reported through gritted teeth. "We're losing speed." Carl closed his eyes, focusing on the ship systems. He could feel them, almost as an extension of his own body. With a thought, he rerouted power, strengthening the shields and diverting energy to critical systems. Aurora, her mind racing with newfound Krenim knowledge, moved to the weapons console. "I can recalibrate our weapons to counter their attack patterns," she said, her fingers flying over the controls. As the space battle intensified, a massive shape dropped out of warp space between the cosmic fusion and its attackers. The newcomer dwarfed both the Purist ships and their own vessel, its sleek lines unmistakably Krenim in design. "This is Admiral Cora Thal of the Krenim warship, Temporal Defender." A stern voice crackled over the comm system. "We are here to offer protection, but our assistance comes at a price." Aurora froze, her eyes wide. That's my mother." The Admiral continued, her tone brooking no argument. "Carl and Aurora must agree to undergo extensive testing by our scientists. Your hybrid physiology could be the key to advancing our understanding of interspecies compatibility." Carl and Aurora exchanged a quick glance, silently weighing their options. The Purist ships were closing in, their weapons charging for another volley. With a shared nod, they made their decision. "We accept your terms, Admiral," Carl responded, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. The Temporal Defender sprang into action, unleashing a barrage of chronoton torpedoes. The Purist ships scattered, creating a temporary safe zone around the cosmic fusion. As the Krenim warship escorted them to a secure docking bay, tension filled the air on the bridge of the cosmic fusion. Captain Vox's hand rested near her sidearm, her eyes never leaving the massive form of the Temporal Defender. "I don't like this," she muttered. "The Admiral's sudden involvement feels too convenient." Before Carl or Aurora could respond, the ship shuddered as it was drawn into the Krenim vessel's docking bay. The moment they were secure, the doors slid open, revealing a team of Krenim scientists led by a tall, angular man with piercing eyes. "I am Dr. Relic Varn," he announced, his gaze fixed on Carl and Aurora. "If you'll follow me, we have much to learn about your unique condition." As they were led away, Carl squeezed Aurora's hand, both drawing strength from each other. They knew the tests ahead would be challenging, but they had no idea just how much their bond would be tested in the coming hours. Behind them, Captain Vox watched their departure, her expression grim. She turned to her communications officer. "Get me Ambassador Holloway. We need to start negotiations with Admiral Thal immediately." The doors of the medical bay closed behind Carl and Aurora, sealing them in a world of advanced Krenim technology and uncertain motives. As the first round of tests began, they could only hope that their decision to accept the Krenim's help wouldn't jeopardize their mission or the fragile peace they were trying to foster. As the doors of the medical bay sealed behind them, Carl and Aurora found themselves surrounded by an array of advanced Krenim technology. Dr. Relic Varn wasted no time in beginning his examination, his eyes gleaming with scientific curiosity as he scanned their hybrid physiology. Hours passed as they underwent a battery of tests, each more intricate than the last. Just as fatigue began to set in, a commotion outside the medical bay caught their attention. The door slid open, revealing Captain Zero Vox, her expression a mix of relief and urgency. "We received word from Ambassador Holloway," she announced. "The repairs on the Temporal Defender are nearly complete, and we've been given clearance to continue our mission." Carl and Aurora exchanged a look of relief, but their respite was short-lived. Dr. Varn cleared his throat, drawing their attention to a small object he held in his hand. "Before you depart, there's something you need to see," he said, his voice tinged with excitement. "During our examinations, we discovered this artifact in your possession." He held up a palm-sized crystalline sphere, its surface etched with intricate geometric patterns. As Carl and Aurora moved closer, the artifact began to pulsate with an otherworldly energy. "Fascinating," Dr. Varn murmured, his eyes fixed on the sphere. "It seems to be responding to your proximity. I propose we conduct a series of controlled experiments to unlock its secrets." With a shared nod of agreement, Carl and Aurora followed Dr. Varn to a secure laboratory. Captain Vox trailed behind, her hand never straying far from her sidearm. In the lab, Dr. Varn placed the artifact on a scanning platform. "Now, if you would both touch the sphere simultaneously," he instructed, his fingers poised over a control panel. Carl and Aurora reached out, their fingertips brushing the cool surface of the crystal. The moment they made contact, the sphere erupted with light, projecting a holographic star map of the galaxy. Gasps filled the room as previously unknown locations flickered to life, highlighted in pulsing blue light. "Progenitor sites," Aurora breathed, her enhanced Krenim knowledge allowing her to interpret the map. Each of these coordinates could hold crucial information about interspecies compatibility and the Ancients' plan for galactic unity. The revelation sent a ripple of excitement through the room. Even Captain Vox leaned in, her skepticism momentarily forgotten as she studied the star map. Dr. Varn's fingers flew over his datapad. "This changes everything. We must inform Admiral Thal immediately." Within the hour, they found themselves in a tense meeting with Admiral Cora Thal. The Admiral's stern features softened almost imperceptibly as her gaze fell on Aurora, but her voice remained firm as she addressed the group. "The potential importance of this discovery cannot be overstated," she said. "I reluctantly agree to support the continuation of your galactic tour. However, I insist on providing a Krenim escort to ensure the safety of both you and the artifact." As preparations for their departure began, tension simmered between the crew of the Cosmic Fusion and the Krenim forces. Captain Vox pulled Carl and Aurora aside, her voice low and urgent. "I don't like this," she muttered. "The increased Krenim presence could compromise the diplomatic nature of our mission." Before they could respond, a transmission from Ambassador Holloway appeared on a nearby screen. The ambassador's face was creased with concern, but his voice was steady as he spoke. "I understand your reservations, Captain," he said, "but I believe this alliance presents an opportunity to foster better relations with the Krenim. Proceed with caution, but do not reject their assistance." As final preparations were made, Carl and Aurora underwent one last round of medical examinations. Dr. Varn's eyes widened as he reviewed the results. "Remarkable," he exclaimed. "Your hybrid physiology has stabilized perfectly. You now exhibit an ideal balance of human and Krenim traits. This could be the key to successful, controlled hybridization between other species." As they boarded the Cosmic Fusion, accompanied by 2 Krenim escort ships, long-range sensors flared to life. Captain Vox's face paled as she interpreted the data. "We've got incoming," she announced, her voice tight. "A massive fleet of purist vessels, led by Drakthor. They've gathered allies from multiple species." Admiral Thal's voice crackled over the comm system, her tone resolute. "The Temporal Defender will create a diversion. We'll draw away the bulk of the purist fleet while you make a run for the nearest progenitor site." Aurora's eyes widened at her mother's words, seeing the Admiral in a new light. As the ships prepared to execute the desperate plan, Carl interfaced with the Cosmic Fusion systems, his hybrid abilities boosting the ship's performance to unprecedented levels. Aurora, drawing on her enhanced empathic abilities, reached out to the crew. A wave of unity and purpose washed over the ship, transcending species boundaries and steeling them for the challenge ahead. The Temporal Defender launched its opening salvo, a barrage of Chronodon torpedoes, creating a web of temporal distortions. In the ensuing chaos, the Cosmic Fusion and its escorts slipped away, their warp drives flaring to life as they set course for the nearest progenitor site. As stars streaked past the viewports, Carl and Aurora huddled over the holographic star map projected by the artifact. Their destination glowed brightly, a remote planet in an uncharted sector, far from any known territories. The isolation must have been intentional, Carl mused, his fingers tracing the path to their target. It would have allowed the progenitors to work without interference. As they approached the coordinates, the ships dropped out of warp into a dense asteroid field surrounding a small, barren-looking planet. The Krenim escorts took up defensive positions, while the Cosmic Fusion began scanning for a safe landing zone. Suddenly, the artifact in Carl and Aurora's possession surged to life. A powerful energy beam erupted from the sphere, penetrating the planet's surface. The crew watched in awe as vast structures began to rise from beneath the barren ground, revealing a hidden progenitor installation of staggering proportions. An entire city unveiled itself, its architecture a perfect blend of organic and technological elements. As they prepared to land and explore this incredible discovery, long-range sensors detected multiple warp signatures approaching their location. "It's the Purist fleet," Captain Vox announced, her voice grim. "They've tracked us. We need to move fast." Carl and Aurora exchanged a determined look. They knew that what they discovered on this hidden world could provide the key to promoting interspecies harmony, or become a weapon in the hands of those who sought to keep the galaxy divided. As the Cosmic Fusion began its descent towards the newly revealed progenitor city, Carl and Aurora braced themselves for the challenges that lay ahead. The race to uncover the secrets of the installation before Drakthor and his forces arrived had begun, and the fate of galactic society hung in the balance. As the Cosmic Fusion began its descent towards the newly revealed progenitor city, the ship's hull vibrated with the turbulence of atmospheric entry. Captain Zero Vox's hands danced across the control panel, her eyes fixed on the rapidly approaching surface. Brace for landing, she announced, her voice steady despite the tension in her shoulders. We're touching down near that pyramid-like structure. The ship settled onto the barren landscape with a gentle thud, kicking up a cloud of dust that obscured the viewports. As the engines powered down, Carl and Aurora shared a look of commitment before rising from their seats. "Let's move," Carl said, grabbing the artifact that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. "We don't have much time before the purists arrive." They led a small expedition team out of the ship, their boots crunching on the rocky terrain. Dr. Relic Varn followed close behind, his scientific curiosity palpable as he scanned the surrounding structures with a handheld device. A squad of Krenim security personnel formed a protective perimeter around them. As they approached the massive pyramid, the artifact in Carl's hand grew warmer, its pulsations intensifying. Aurora placed her hand on its surface, and suddenly, an intricate pattern of light raced across the structure's facade. "Look," she gasped, pointing at an elaborate door mechanism that had appeared. "It's responding to us." Carl stepped forward, guided by an instinct he couldn't explain. He pressed his palm against the door, and Aurora did the same. There was a moment of silence, then a low hum filled the air as the massive doors began to part. "Fascinating," Dr. Varn murmured, furiously taking notes on his datapad. "The facility seems to recognize your hybrid genetic signatures." The team cautiously entered the structure, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. As they moved deeper inside, holographic displays flickered to life, bathing the chamber in a soft, bluish glow. "This is incredible," Aurora breathed, her eyes wide as she absorbed the information displayed before them. "It's a complete history of the progenitors and their mission." Carl nodded, his expression a mix of awe and realization. Our union wasn't an accident. It was part of their plan all along. As they delved further into the facility, the lights ahead of them suddenly flared to life. A computerized voice echoed through the corridors. "Unauthorized genetic signatures detected. Initiating security protocols." The Krenim security team raised their weapons, but Carl held up a hand. "Wait," he said, studying the holographic interface that had appeared before him. "The system recognizes Aurora and me as authorized users. It's seeing the rest of you as potential threats." "We need to proceed carefully," Aurora added, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I think we're meant to navigate these challenges together." What followed was a series of increasingly complex tests and obstacles. Carl and Aurora worked in perfect synchronization, their hybrid abilities complementing each other as they overcame each challenge. They manipulated energy fields, deciphered ancient codes, and navigated shifting gravitational planes. Meanwhile, in orbit above the planet, chaos erupted. The Krenim escort ships detected the first wave of the purist fleet dropping out of warp. Space lit up with weapons fire as the outnumbered Krenim vessels engaged the enemy. Captain Vox's voice crackled over the comm system. "We've got company up here. The Krenim are buying us time, but it won't last long." "How's it going down there?" "We're making progress," Carl replied, his voice strained as he and Aurora worked to realign a series of crystal matrices. "But we're not sure what we're looking for yet." As if in response to his words, the final obstacle fell away, revealing a vast central control room. At its heart stood a dormant console, pulsing with a faint, rhythmic light. Carl and Aurora approached it cautiously. As they drew near, the console sprang to life, projecting a holographic figure that coalesced into a humanoid form. "Greetings," the figure said, its voice resonating with ancient wisdom. "I am the custodian, guardian of this facility. You have proven yourselves worthy to access the legacy of the progenitors." The custodian explained the true purpose of the installation, a means to safely accelerate and stabilize interspecies genetic compatibility across the galaxy. But to activate this technology, Carl and Aurora would need to undergo a final, irreversible melding of their genetic structures. This process will fundamentally alter your physiology, the custodian warned. You will gain abilities beyond your current comprehension, but at the cost of your individual human and Krenim identities. You will become living embodiments of our vision for galactic unity. Carl and Aurora stood in stunned silence, the weight of the decision before them almost overwhelming. They turned to each other, searching each other's eyes for answers. Before they could speak, alarms blared throughout the facility. Dr. Varn burst into the room, his face pale with urgency. "The purists have landed," he shouted over the din. "They're assaulting the outer defenses. We don't have much time." A communication channel opened, revealing Admiral Cora Thal's grim face. "We've arrived with reinforcements, but we're outnumbered. More Galactic Council forces are en route, but they won't make it in time. Whatever you're going to do, you need to do it now." Carl and Aurora locked eyes, a lifetime of unspoken communication passing between them in an instant. They moved towards each other, their bodies drawn together by an irresistible force. As their lips met, their hybrid physiologies resonated in perfect harmony, the artifact between them pulsing with newfound intensity. Breaking apart, they turned to face the custodian. With a shared nod of grit, Carl spoke for both of them. "We're ready," he said, his voice unwavering. "Initiate the melding process." The custodian gestured, and a chamber materialized around Carl and Aurora. As they stepped inside, tendrils of energy began to swirl around their bodies, enveloping them in a cocoon of light. The genetic melding began, sending pulses of energy throughout the structure and into space. The installation system surged with power, the waves of energy expanding outward and interacting with the ongoing space battle above. As Carl and Aurora's bodies began to transform, the hope of the universe hung in the balance. The ultimate consequences of their decision remained unknown, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. As the energy cocoon surrounding Carl and Aurora intensified, their bodies began to shimmer and shift. The air crackled with power, and a blinding flash filled the chamber. When the light faded, the couple emerged transformed. Their skin now pulsed with intricate bioluminescent patterns, casting a soft glow throughout the room. Their eyes shone with an otherworldly light, reflecting the vast knowledge and power they had gained. Carl and Aurora stood hand in hand, their new forms a perfect fusion of human and Krenim traits. The custodian's holographic form flickered and expanded. "The genetic melding is complete," it announced, its voice resonating with approval. "You are now the living embodiment of the progenitor's vision." As the words echoed through the chamber, the entire installation hummed to life. Consoles lit up, and holographic displays filled the air with streams of data. Carl and Aurora found themselves instinctively understanding the complex information flowing around them. "The primary systems are now online," Carl said, his voice carrying a new depth and resonance. "We can feel the entire facility." Aurora nodded, her eyes scanning the room. "It's incredible. We're connected to everything." Their moment of wonder was interrupted by a violent tremor that shook the structure. Dr. Varn stumbled, steadying himself against a nearby console. "The purists have breached our outer defenses," he reported, his face pale with concern. "We're out of time." Carl and Aurora exchanged a determined look. Without a word, they moved in perfect synchronization towards the central control platform. As they approached, the console responded to their presence, interfaces materializing beneath their fingertips. "We need to protect the installation," Aurora said, her hands dancing across the holographic controls. "Activating defense systems now." A pulse of energy radiated outward from the facility, spreading rapidly across the planet's surface and into space. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Both in orbit and on the ground, weapon systems sputtered and died. Engines cut out, leaving ships drifting and ground vehicles stranded. Captain Vox's voice crackled over the comm system, filled with a mixture of awe and confusion. What just happened? Every system on the ship just went dark. We've created a temporary ceasefire, Carl explained, his mind processing vast amounts of data. It should give us the time we need. Aurora turned to the custodian. We need to broadcast a message to everyone in the system. Can you give us access to the communication array? The holographic figure nodded, and a new set of controls appeared before them. Carl and Aurora worked in tandem, their movements fluid and precise as they prepared the transmission. "This is Carl Jensen and Aurora Thal," Carl began, his voice carried across the system to every ship and ground force. "We stand before you as living proof of what the progenitors envisioned for our galaxy." Aurora continued, her voice blending seamlessly with Carl's. "The installation we've uncovered isn't a weapon or a threat. It's a gift, a means to bridge the gaps between our species and create a more harmonious future for all." As they spoke, holographic images of their transformation and the installation's capabilities projected alongside their words. The broadcast showed the potential benefits of controlled genetic hybridization, from enhanced abilities to cures for previously incurable diseases. In orbit, the reaction to the message was mixed. Many ships hung motionless, their crews captivated by the demonstration. Others, particularly among the purest fleet, seethed with renewed anger and fear. On the bridge of the Temporal Defender, Admiral Cora Thal watched the transmission with wide eyes, her daughter's transformed visage filling the main view screen. She felt a profound shift within herself, years of isolationist doctrine crumbling in the face of this new reality. "Stand down all weapons," she ordered, her voice quiet but firm. "Open a channel to the Galactic Council representatives." As diplomatic talks began in orbit, Carl and Aurora turned their attention to the planet itself. They could sense the approaching purest ground forces, their minds filled with a mixture of fear, anger, and confusion. "We need to show them the true potential of this technology," Aurora said, her eyes gleaming with inspiration. "Not just in words, but in action." Carl nodded, understanding her intention without needing to speak. Together, they accessed the installation's most hidden and powerful system, the Terraform engine. As they activated the ancient machine, the planet around them began to change. Barren plains cracked and shifted, revealing vast underground reservoirs that burst forth to form new oceans. The air shimmered as its composition altered, becoming rich with oxygen and other life-sustaining elements. From the purest camp, Drakthor watched in disbelief as the dead world transformed before his eyes. Lush vegetation sprouted from once lifeless soil, spreading across the landscape at an impossible speed. The sky, once a dull, dusty haze, cleared to reveal a vibrant blue. "This is not possible," he growled, his fists clenched in rage. "We cannot allow this abomination to continue." But even as he rallied his most fanatical followers for a final assault on the installation, others in his ranks began to waver. The sight of a world reborn, from death to life in a matter of hours, was too powerful to ignore. Inside the installation, Carl and Aurora monitored the ongoing transformation, their enhanced senses allowing them to feel the planet's rebirth. As they worked, the custodian's hologram approached them. "There is much more for you to discover," it said, gesturing to previously hidden sections of the facility. The progenitors left behind technologies that could revolutionize medicine, propulsion, and more. But be warned, with great power comes great responsibility. Carl and Aurora exchanged a look, understanding the weight of the challenge before them. They had set in motion events that would reshape the galaxy, but the path ahead was far from clear. As ships from distant worlds began to appear in the system, drawn by news of the miraculous transformation, they knew that their greatest trials were yet to come. The newly formed oceans of the reborn world reflected the light of unfamiliar stars, a silent witness to the unfolding drama that would determine the future of countless species across the galaxy. Galaxy, As Carl and Aurora stood in the control room, marveling at the transformation they had wrought, they felt a sudden shift in the air. The custodian's hologram flickered, its expression changing from one of calm guidance to urgent concern. "We are detecting multiple incoming transmissions," the AI announced. "It appears news of your transformation and the planet's rebirth has spread faster than anticipated." Carl and Aurora exchanged glances, their newfound connection allowing them to share a moment of both excitement and trepidation without words. They turned to the main console, where holographic displays burst to life, showing a flurry of activity throughout the system. "Ships from all corners of the galaxy," Aurora murmured, her enhanced vision allowing her to process the data at lightning speed. "They're coming to see us." Dr. Varn, who had been monitoring communications, looked up from his station. "It's not just ships. We're being inundated with messages from every known species. They're calling you. Celebrities." Carl felt a flutter of unease. "We need to get ahead of this. If we don't control the narrative, someone else will." Aurora nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. "The installation. We can use its communication array to broadcast across the galaxy." Without hesitation, they set to work. Their fingers danced across the holographic interfaces, their movements perfectly synchronized. Within minutes, they had established a makeshift studio within the heart of the progenitor facility. "This is Carl Jensen and Aurora Thal," Carl began, his voice carried across light years to billions of eager listeners. "What you've heard is true. We have undergone a transformation, and in doing so, we've unlocked the potential for a new era of galactic harmony." Aurora continued seamlessly. "We stand before you as living proof that our differences need not divide us. The technology we've discovered here isn't just about changing individuals. It's about healing worlds." As they spoke, images of the planet's transformation flowed across screens throughout the galaxy. Barren wastelands gave way to lush forests. Dead oceans sprang to life with vibrant ecosystems. The broadcast captivated audiences of all species, inspiring awe and hope in equal measure. But not everyone welcomed this new vision of the future. On the bridge of his flagship, Drakthor seethed with rage as he watched the transmission. "Abominations," he spat. "They seek to destroy everything that makes us unique, to blend us all into a homogeneous mass." He turned to his most loyal followers. "Prepare a counter-broadcast. The galaxy must know the truth about these genetic aberrations." As tension simmered in orbit, Carl and Aurora found themselves facing a new challenge on the surface. Their daily broadcast had become the most watched program across multiple species, and with that attention came unexpected consequences. A sleek, private shuttle landed near the progenitor installation, its polished hull gleaming in the light of the newly formed sun. From it emerged a group of well-dressed individuals representing various species. At their head strode a tall, charismatic Vulcan with iridescent scales and a winning smile. "Carl, Aurora," he called out, arms spread wide in greeting. "I'm Zax Vortex, and we are the evolutionary vanguard. We've come to discuss opportunities." Carl felt a twinge of unease at the newcomer's overly friendly demeanor. "What kind of opportunities?" Zax's smile widened. "The kind that could reshape the galaxy, of course. We represent some of the wealthiest and most influential individuals across known space. And we're very interested in what your new abilities could offer. For the right price." Aurora's eyes narrowed. "Our goal is to benefit all species, not just those who can afford it." Before Zax could respond, alarms blared throughout the installation. The custodian's hologram appeared, its expression grave. The energy pulse disabling the orbiting ship's weapon systems is fading. "We are detecting multiple vessels, powering up their offensive capabilities." Carl and Aurora shared a look of willpower. They knew they had to act fast to prevent renewed conflict. Without a word, They moved in perfect unison towards the central control platform. "We need to create a neutral zone," Carl said, his hands flying across the interface. "Something to keep the peace while we sort this out." Aurora nodded, her mind already connecting with the progenitor systems. An orbital ring, large enough to accommodate representatives from all factions. As they worked, the air around them crackled with energy. Outside, the sky lit up as massive structures began to materialize in orbit. Segments of the ring took shape, growing and connecting at an incredible rate. Zach's vortex watched in awe, his earlier sales pitch forgotten in the face of this display of power. "By the cosmic winds," he whispered. "What are you doing?" Carl turned to face the assembled group, his eyes glowing with otherworldly energy. "We're building a bridge between worlds, a place where all species can come together as equals." As the orbital ring neared completion, Carl and Aurora prepared to send out invitations for a galactic summit. But even as they worked to bring peace to the stars, a new threat was taking shape beneath their feet. Deep in the caverns below the progenitor installation, a group of purist extremists led by the fanatic Krell prepared their weapons. "Soon," Krell hissed, his eyes gleaming with zealous fervor, "soon we will cleanse the galaxy of these genetic aberrations and restore the purity of our species." Above ground, oblivious to the danger lurking below, Carl and Aurora stood hand in hand, watching as ships from across the galaxy began to approach the newly formed orbital ring. The next phase of their journey was about to begin, and the fate of countless worlds hung in the balance. As ships from across the galaxy approached the newly formed orbital ring, Carl and Aurora felt the weight of their responsibilities pressing down upon them. "We need time," Aurora said, her eyes meeting Carl's. "Time to process everything that's happened and prepare for what's to come." Carl nodded, understanding her unspoken need. "The terraform areas of the planet are still largely unexplored. We could find a quiet spot, just the two of us." Their decision made, they informed Dr. Varn and the custodian of their plans. The AI's hologram flickered with what almost seemed like concern. "Your presence may be required if complications arise," it warned. "We won't be far," Carl assured it, "and we'll maintain communication links." As they prepared for their brief retreat, activity on the orbital ring intensified. Ships of various designs and origins docked at the newly constructed bays. Delegations from countless worlds began to arrive, filling the ring's corridors with a cacophony of languages and a riot of alien forms. Carl and Aurora slipped away quietly, taking a small shuttle to a remote area of the transformed planet. They landed in a lush valley, surrounded by towering trees that hadn't existed mere days ago. A crystal-clear stream meandered through the center, its waters teeming with newly introduced aquatic life. As they explored their surroundings, Carl felt a strange sensation. It was as if he could sense Aurora's presence, even when she was out of sight. He turned to find her standing behind him, a look of wonder on her face. "Did you just—" she began. Carl nodded. "I felt you, not just nearby, but—" "In your mind," Aurora finished. They spent the next hours testing this new ability, pushing the boundaries of their mental connection. Words became unnecessary as they shared thoughts, emotions, and sensations with increasing clarity. Their newfound intimacy brought them closer than ever before, both emotionally and physically. As they lay together under the alien stars, their bodies intertwined, Carl marveled at how perfectly they now fit together. Every touch, every caress was heightened by their mental link. But their idyllic retreat was short-lived. A priority message from Ambassador Marcus Holloway interrupted their solitude. "Carl, Aurora." The ambassador's holographic form looked haggard. "We need you back at the installation. The situation across the galaxy is deteriorating rapidly. Debates over genetic hybridization have sparked violence in several systems, and the summit delegates are growing restless." They returned to find the orbital ring buzzing with nervous energy. Holloway met them at the docking bay, his face lined with worry. "The purists are gaining support," he explained as they walked. "They're spreading fear about the loss of species identity. We need to counter their narrative, and fast." As they entered the main conference chamber, a familiar voice called out, "Ah, our genetic pioneers return." Zach's vortex approached, his scales shimmering with nearly unleashed excitement. "I hope you reconsidered my proposal. The evolutionary vanguard stands ready to usher in a new era of genetic advancement." Carl felt a wave of revulsion through his link with Aurora. "Our position hasn't changed," he said firmly. "The progenitor technology isn't for sale, and it certainly won't be used to create a privileged class of enhanced beings." Vortex's smile faltered, replaced by a calculating look. "You're making a mistake. Progress cannot be stopped, and those who stand in its way will be left behind." As Vortex stormed off, Carl and Aurora shared a concerned glance. They could sense the tensions rising around them, threatening to boil over. "We need to show them," Aurora said suddenly. "Not just tell them about the benefits, but let them experience it firsthand." Carl caught her meaning immediately. "The caverns, if we can access more of the installation systems. Maybe we can find a way to demonstrate the true potential of controlled genetic integration." They made their way to the heart of the progenitor facility, where the entrance to the underground complex lay hidden. As they prepared to descend, the custodian's hologram appeared. "I must warn you," it said, its voice carrying an uncharacteristic note of caution. "The security systems in the lower levels are still active. They were designed to test the worthiness of those who would access the progenitor's most guarded secrets." Carl and Aurora exchanged a determined look. "We're ready," they said in unison. As they entered the caverns, ancient machinery hummed to life around them. Holographic barriers sprang up, creating a labyrinth of shimmering energy. Robotic sentinels emerged from hidden alcoves, their weapons trained on the intruders. But Carl and Aurora were no longer the same beings who had first stumbled upon the installation. Their hybrid physiology allowed them to move with incredible speed and agility. They communicated wordlessly through their mental link, coordinating their movements with perfect synchronization. They danced through energy fields that would have incinerated normal humans, their enhanced bodies adapting to the changing conditions. When confronted by the Sentinels, they found they could interface directly with the ancient machines, overriding their programming with a mere touch. Deeper and deeper they went, overcoming each challenge with growing confidence. And then, as they entered a vast chamber, they stopped short in amazement. Before them stood rows upon rows of stasis pods, each containing a perfectly preserved figure. The custodian's hologram materialized beside them. "The last of the progenitors," it said solemnly, placed in suspended animation, waiting for the day when the galaxy would be ready for their return. As Carl and Aurora approached the nearest pod, a holographic message flickered to life. The image of a progenitor, majestic and alien, began to speak. "To those who have proven worthy," the ancient being intoned, "we entrust the future of our legacy. The path we have set before you is but the beginning. A greater challenge awaits, one that will require the combined strength of all sentient beings." Carl and Aurora listened intently as the progenitor revealed the true scope of their plan. A united galactic civilization capable of facing a threat from beyond known space. The implications were staggering, but before they could fully process this revelation, an urgent communication broke through. "Carl, Aurora," it was Dr. Varn, his voice tight with panic. "We're under attack. Purist forces have breached the installation's defenses, and they're targeting the orbital ring as well." The couple shared a look of willpower. They had to act fast to protect both the installation and the precious knowledge they had just uncovered. As they prepared to rush back to the surface, they felt a strange resonance building within them. Their hybrid bodies began to glow, pulsing in sync with the energy emanating from the stasis pods. Suddenly, they could sense the entire installation as if it were an extension of themselves. "We can activate the defense systems from here," Aurora realized, her mind already reaching out to interface with the ancient technology. Carl nodded, joining his consciousness with hers. Together, they began to coordinate a response to the purist attack, even as they grappled with the monumental revelations about the progenitor's true purpose. As alarms blared and the battle raged above, Carl and Aurora stood at a crossroads. The fate of not just the installation, but potentially the entire galaxy, now rested in their hands. The next few moments would determine whether the progenitor's vision of a united future would become reality or be lost forever in the chaos of conflict. Cosmic danger. As this realization struck them, Carl and Aurora felt a sudden surge of energy coursing through their bodies. Their hybrid forms began to glow with an otherworldly light, pulsing in rhythm with the ancient technology surrounding them. The power of the progenitors flowed through them, connecting their minds not just to each other, but to key figures across the planet and in orbit. The strain was immediate and intense. Carl gritted his teeth, feeling as if his skull might split open from the pressure. Aurora's eyes widened, her breath coming in short gasps as she struggled to maintain the connection. "We have to share this knowledge," she managed to say, her voice strained. Carl nodded, understanding without words. Together, they focused their minds, pushing through the pain to transmit the crucial information about the progenitor's plan and the looming cosmic threat. Across the battlefield, the effect was instantaneous. Admiral Cora Thal, in the midst of coordinating defensive maneuvers, suddenly froze as the knowledge flooded her mind. Her eyes widened with understanding, and she quickly began issuing new orders to her fleet. "All ships new formation. Target these coordinates," she commanded, using the tactical insights gained through the psychic link to outmaneuver the purest forces. On the planet's surface, Ambassador Marcus Holloway stumbled mid-sentence during a heated argument with a group of delegates. The influx of information nearly brought him to his knees, but he quickly recovered, his diplomatic mind racing with the implications. "We need to convene an emergency session," he announced, his voice carrying a newfound urgency. "There's something you all need to know." Even among the attacking purist forces, the shared vision caused many to hesitate. Ships that had been charging forward moments ago now hung motionless in space, their crews grappling with the weight of the revelation. Krell, leading the assault on the installation's defenses, felt the psychic wave wash over him. He staggered, shaking his head as if to clear it. "No," he snarled, pushing back against the shared vision. "It's a trick. Push forward." But many of his followers were no longer listening. The knowledge of the greater threat had shaken their dedication, causing them to question the very foundation of their beliefs. As the battle around them began to shift, Carl and Aurora found themselves unable to break the psychic link. The connection had taken on a life of its own, drawing more and more energy from their hybrid bodies. Their skin began to shimmer, bioluminescent patterns flickering erratically across their surface. Carl felt as if he was being pulled in 1,000 directions at once, his consciousness stretched to its limits. Aurora's form started to waver, becoming translucent in places. She reached out to Carl, their hands passing through each other as their physical bodies began to destabilize. The custodian's hologram appeared beside them, its expression one of alarm. "Warning. Critical physiological instability detected. Initiating emergency protocols." The ancient machinery around them roared to life, channeling vast amounts of energy into Carl and Aurora's failing bodies. The surge caused the entire installation to shudder, lights flickering and systems temporarily shutting down. In orbit, Admiral Thal seized the opportunity presented by the purest moment of hesitation. Her ships moved with precision, cutting off escape routes and forcing the enemy fleet to retreat from the orbital ring. On the surface, Zach's vortex watched the tide turn with growing alarm. His alliance with Krell now seemed like a catastrophic miscalculation. With a quick glance around to ensure he wasn't observed, he slipped away from the Purist Command Center and made his way towards the Galactic Council representatives. "Esteemed delegates," he said, his voice oozing charm, "I believe I can be of assistance in these trying times. My resources and influence could be invaluable in supporting our new, unified efforts." As negotiations intensified and the battle subsided, Carl and Aurora remained trapped in their psychic link, their bodies continuing to destabilize despite the custodian's efforts. The massive influx of energy had unintended consequences, causing several of the progenitor stasis pods to activate. With a hiss of escaping gases, the pods began to open. Disoriented but immensely powerful beings emerged, their ancient eyes taking in the chaos around them. At that moment, Krell and his team of purist extremists breached the inner chambers, weapons raised. They found themselves face to face with the newly awakened progenitors, whose abilities far surpassed anything the purists had encountered. In a matter of seconds, Krell and his team were subdued, their weapons crushed like toys in the progenitors' hands. The ancient beings looked around in confusion, struggling to comprehend the situation they had awakened to. As the psychic link finally began to weaken, Carl and Aurora regained some control over their physical forms. They found themselves at the center of a precarious situation: awakened progenitors, captured purists, and a galaxy on the brink of transformation. Carl took a shaky step forward, his body still shimmering with residual energy. "We have much to discuss," he said, addressing both the progenitors and the subdued purists. "The future of the cosmos hangs in the balance, and we all have a part to play." Aurora nodded, her form gradually solidifying. "But first," she added, her voice carrying the weight of their shared vision, "we need to prepare. The threat we face is more imminent than we realize, and we'll need every resource at our disposal to face it." As they spoke, the echoes of their psychic broadcast continued to ripple across the galaxy, setting the stage for a new era of cooperation and confrontation, unlike anything seen before. As the echoes of the psychic broadcast faded, Carl and Aurora found themselves at the epicenter of a galactic paradigm shift. The chamber, moments ago filled with tension, now buzzed with a mixture of awe and urgency. The newly awakened progenitors, their ancient eyes adjusting to the scene before them, turned their attention to the hybrid couple. "You have done well," one of the progenitors said, its voice resonating with millennia of wisdom. "But the true challenge lies ahead." Carl nodded, his form still shimmering with residual energy. "We're ready to face it," he said, glancing at Aurora. "Whatever it takes to protect our galaxy." The progenitor's expression shifted, a hint of concern crossing its features. "The threat we face is beyond anything you have encountered. It is known as the Void Devourer, a cosmic entity that consumes entire galaxies." Aurora's eyes widened, her newly stabilized form tensing at the revelation. "How do we stop something like that?" Before the progenitor could answer, Ambassador Marcus Holloway burst into the chamber, followed by a retinue of delegates from various species. His eyes darted from the subdued purists to the ancient beings, finally settling on Carl and Aurora. "What we just experienced, is it true?" Marcus asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Are we truly facing a threat of that magnitude?" Carl stepped forward, his hybrid physiology allowing him to process and communicate the complex information more easily. "It's true, Ambassador. The progenitors have just confirmed it. We're dealing with an entity they call the Void Devourer." As Carl began explaining the nature of the threat, Aurora noticed the subtle changes in the room's dynamics. The previously hostile purists now looked shell-shocked, their beliefs shattered by the cosmic revelations. Even Krell, still restrained, seemed to be grappling with the new reality. Meanwhile, Admiral Cora Thal's hologram flickered to life in the center of the chamber. The purest fleet has been neutralized, she reported, her voice steady despite the chaos of the recent battle. But we're detecting strange energy fluctuations at the edge of our solar system. Whatever's coming, it's moving fast. The progenitors exchanged glances, their ancient eyes reflecting a mixture of tenacity and regret. We must act quickly, one of them said. Our technology, combined with the advancements of your civilizations, may be our only hope. As the gravity of the situation sank in, the chamber erupted into a flurry of activity. Delegates huddled in groups, frantically discussing strategies and alliances. The progenitors began sharing their knowledge with key figures, their words painting a grim picture of the approaching danger. Amidst the chaos, Carl felt a hand on his arm. He turned to see Aurora, her expression a mix of concern and purpose. "Carl, we need to talk," she said softly. Privately. They found a quiet corner, away from the frantic discussions. Aurora's form shimmered slightly, her hybrid body still adjusting to the aftermath of the psychic link. "How are you feeling?" Carl asked, reaching out to touch her hand, only to find his fingers passing through her semi-translucent skin. Aurora's eyes met his, filled with a tumult of emotions. "I'm adapting," she said. "But that's not what worries me. Carl, did you notice how the progenitors reacted when they mentioned the Void Devourer? There's something they're not telling us." Carl nodded, his own suspicions confirmed. "I sense it too. We need to find out what they're hiding. But first, we have to focus on uniting the galaxy against this threat." As if on cue, Ambassador Holloway approached them, his face etched with lines of worry. "Carl, Aurora, we need your help. The delegates are in chaos. Your unique abilities make you the perfect intermediaries between us and the progenitors. We need you to help translate their knowledge into actionable plans." Carl and Aurora exchanged a glance, silently acknowledging the weight of responsibility now resting on their shoulders. "We're ready, Ambassador," Carl said, "but we'll need resources and cooperation from all factions." Holloway nodded, his diplomatic mind already working on solutions. "I'll do everything in my power to ensure you have what you need, but be prepared for resistance. Not everyone will be eager to set aside old grievances, even in the face of annihilation." As Holloway turned to leave, Carl caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd. Zax Vortex, the cunning businessman who had allied himself with the Purists, was now deep in conversation with a group of delegates. His silver tongue was already at work, offering his vast resources to aid in the coming battle. "We'll need to keep an eye on him," Aurora murmured, following Carl's gaze. "He could be a powerful ally or a dangerous liability." Carl nodded, his hybrid senses picking up the undercurrents of fear and desperation in the room. "We'll need everyone we can get, but trust will be in short supply." As they prepared to rejoin the main group, a tremor ran through the installation. Alarms blared and holographic displays flickered to life, showing a terrifying sight. At the edge of the solar system, a vast, swirling mass of dark energy was taking shape, distorting the very fabric of space around it. The Void Devourer had arrived. Carl and Aurora stood at the precipice of an unimaginable challenge. As the cosmos's future hung in the balance, they knew that every decision, every alliance, and every secret uncovered would shape the coming battle. With their hybrid abilities evolving and their bond tested by the immense pressure, they stepped forward, ready to face the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. The chamber erupted into a frenzy of activity as the Void Devourer's presence became undeniable. Carl and Aurora, still reeling from their psychic ordeal, found themselves thrust into the center of a desperate scramble for survival. "We need a plan," Carl said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Something that can unite our forces and give us a fighting chance." Aurora nodded, her form finally stabilizing. "I think I have an idea," she said, her eyes lighting up with sudden inspiration. A galaxy-wide defense network, powered by progenitor technology and our hybrid abilities. As they began to outline their proposal, a surge of energy coursed through their bodies. Carl gasped, feeling a newfound power thrumming beneath his skin. Aurora experienced the same sensation, her bioluminescent patterns flaring brightly. The progenitors, observing this phenomenon, exchanged knowing glances. "Your bond," one of them said. "It's evolving, becoming something more." Before they could explore this further, Ambassador Holloway approached, his face a mask of persistence. "We need to present this plan to the Coalition immediately. Every second counts." As Carl and Aurora began explaining their defense network concept to the assembled delegates, they found their thoughts intertwining, ideas flowing between them with unprecedented ease. Each time they made physical contact, even the slightest brush of hands, a pulse of energy radiated outward, interfacing with the surrounding progenitor systems. Holographic displays flickered to life, showcasing intricate schematics that seemed to materialize from their shared consciousness. The delegates watched in awe as the plan took shape before their eyes. "This is remarkable," Admiral Thau's hologram commented, her tactical mind already analyzing the strategic implications. "But can we implement it in time?" Carl stepped forward, his hybrid physiology allowing him to process complex data streams with ease. "We believe so, Admiral, but it will require complete cooperation from all factions." As discussions intensified, Carl and Aurora found themselves drawn to a quiet corner of the chamber. The moment they were alone, an overwhelming urge overcame them. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, and suddenly, the room around them pulsed with energy. Nearby consoles lit up, previously dormant systems springing to life. As they separated, breathless and wide-eyed, they realized the implications of what had just happened. "Our connection," Aurora whispered, her skin shimmering with residual energy. "It's not just mental anymore. It's physical, too." Carl nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. "And it seems to supercharge the progenitor tech around us. This could be the key to accelerating our defense preparations." Their private moment was interrupted by a commotion near the main gathering. Zax Vortex, the cunning businessman, was addressing the delegates, his silver tongue working overtime. "My friends," he said, his voice oozing charm, "I couldn't help but overhear the brilliant plan proposed by our hybrid saviors. Allow me to offer my vast resources to aid in this endeavor." Carl and Aurora exchanged a wary glance. Vortex's support could be crucial, but his motives remained suspect. As debates raged on, news of Carl and Aurora's unique method of powering the defense network began to spread. Reactions were mixed, with some hailing them as heroes willing to sacrifice their privacy for the greater good, while others expressed shock and disapproval. Ambassador Holloway, recognizing the potential for division, quickly took control of the narrative. He called for a galaxy-wide broadcast, his charismatic presence filling screens across countless worlds. "Citizens of the galaxy," he began, his voice resonating with conviction. "We stand at a crossroads. The threat we face is unlike anything in our history. But we have hope. Thanks to the selfless actions of Carl and Aurora, we have a chance to survive." As Holloway spoke, Carl and Aurora retreated to a private chamber, overwhelmed by the weight of expectation now resting on their shoulders. The moment the door closed behind them, they fell into each other's arms, their bodies intertwining as waves of energy pulsed around them. Each caress, each kiss, sent shockwaves through the insulation systems. Dormant consoles sprang to life, data streams flowing at unprecedented speeds. Their intimate moments, once private, had become the lifeline of their defense efforts. Outside, Admiral Thau coordinated with her fleet, integrating newly developed weapons based on the unlocked progenitor technology. Zax Vortex, true to his word, began mobilizing his vast network to establish energy relay stations throughout the galaxy. As Carl and Aurora emerged from their private chamber, disheveled but energized, they found the coalition had made significant progress. The first tendrils of the Void Devourer were visible at the fringes of the galaxy, but so too were the first elements of their defense network. Suddenly, one of the progenitors approached, its ancient eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. "There is something else you must know," it said, its voice low and urgent. "Something that could turn the tide in our favor." Carl and Aurora listened intently as the progenitor revealed the existence of the Nexus Citadel, a massive space station hidden within a nearby nebula. As the ancient being explained the station's purpose and the genetic key required to activate it, Carl and Aurora realized that their journey was not nearly finished. With renewed commitment, they prepared to embark on their perilous mission to the Nexus Citadel. As they boarded their ship, surrounded by a team of scientists and military personnel, Carl took Aurora's hand. "Whatever happens," he said, his voice low and intimate, "we're in this together." Aurora squeezed his hand in response, her hybrid body humming with energy and anticipation. As the ship's engines roared to life, they both knew that the true test of their bond and the destiny of the universe lay ahead. As the ship's airlock sealed shut, Carl and Aurora exchanged a determined look, their fingers intertwined. The journey to the Nexus Citadel would be fraught with danger, but it was their only hope of turning the tide against the Void Devourer. The trip through the nebula was turbulent, with swirling gases and debris buffeting the ship. As they approached the massive space station hidden within, Carl and Aurora felt a strange pull, as if the Citadel itself was calling to them. Upon docking, the team was met by a group of progenitor scientists who had been stationed at the Citadel. The ancient beings led them through winding corridors filled with pulsating technology far beyond anything they had ever seen. In the heart of the station, they found themselves in a vast chamber dominated by a swirling vortex of energy. The lead progenitor turned to Carl and Aurora, its eyes filled with a mixture of hope and sadness. "This is the central core," it explained. "To activate the Citadel's full power and establish the defense network, you must merge with it completely." Carl's grip on Aurora's hand tightened. "What does that mean exactly?" he asked, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. The progenitor's expression was solemn. "Your physical forms will be dissolved, your consciousnesses fused with the Citadel systems. You will become one with the station and with each other." Aurora's bioluminescent patterns flared in response to the surge of emotions. "Will we still be ourselves?" "You will be more than yourselves," the progenitor replied. "You will be the heart and mind of the galaxy's defense." Carl and Aurora stepped away from the group, finding a quiet corner to discuss their decision. Their whispered conversation was intense, filled with fears, hopes, and declarations of love. Finally, they turned back to the assembled team, their faces set with dedication. "We'll do it," Carl announced. "For the galaxy, for all life, for each other." The process began immediately. Carl and Aurora were led to a specially designed chamber filled with pulsating energy fields. As they stepped inside, the air around them crackled with power. They faced each other, hands clasped tightly. "I love you," Aurora whispered, her form already beginning to shimmer. "And I love you," Carl replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Always." Their lips met in a final, passionate kiss as their bodies began to dissolve into pure energy. The assembled team watched in awe as Carl and Aurora's forms intertwined, merging with the swirling vortex at the center of the chamber. The process took hours, during which the rest of the team anxiously monitored the progress. Outside the Citadel, the situation grew dire. The first waves of the Void Devourer began to encroach upon populated star systems. Admiral Cora Athal's hologram appeared in the control room, her face etched with tension. "We're running out of time," she reported. "The entity is moving faster than we anticipated." How much longer? Before anyone could respond, the entire citadel hummed to life. Dormant systems activated, consoles lit up, and a massive energy shield began to form around the station. The shield expanded rapidly, pushing back the tendrils of the Void Devourer and encompassing nearby star systems. Zach's Vortex's voice crackled over the comms. The energy relay stations are online and amplifying the signal. We're seeing similar shields forming across the galaxy. The merged consciousness of Carl and Aurora spread throughout the system. They perceive the entire galaxy simultaneously, coordinating the movements of countless ships and the actions of billions of beings. Their shared mind became a nexus of information and strategy, allowing them to predict the Void Devourer's movements and direct defensive efforts with unprecedented efficiency. As the first major battle against the cosmic entity erupted in the Orion Arm, Carl and Aurora guided the combined galactic fleet through a series of complex maneuvers. They used the energy relay stations to create pockets of intensified defensive fields, trapping portions of the Void Devourer and preventing it from retreating. The strain on their merged consciousness soon became evident. The progenitors detected fluctuations in Carl and Aurora's energy signature, realizing that maintaining control over such vast systems was taking a toll on their essence. Ambassador Marcus Holloway, his face grim with concern, proposed a radical solution. We need to create a network of volunteer resonators, individuals who can share the mental burden and act as auxiliary processors for the defense network. Despite the risks, thousands stepped forward to undergo the procedure. Dr. Relic Varn worked tirelessly with the progenitor scientists to develop a method for creating these resonators. The first group was successfully integrated into the system, providing immediate relief to Carl and Aurora's overextended consciousness. As the resonator network expanded, a new challenge emerged. The Void Devourer began targeting the energy relay stations. Zach's Vortex, his usual smug demeanor replaced by fierce concentration, proposed a daring plan. We need to make the stations mobile, he insisted. Convert them into massive platforms that can relocate to reinforce vulnerable areas. Admiral Thal, seeing the strategic value, assigned a portion of the fleet to protect the energy relay stations during their conversion and subsequent movements. The result was a dynamic defense grid that could respond quickly to attacks, but also left some sectors temporarily exposed. As the conflict intensified, Carl and Aurora made a startling discovery through their connection to the progenitor technology. The Void Devourer was not a natural phenomenon, but an artificial construct created by an ancient, extragalactic civilization. This revelation opened up new possibilities for understanding and potentially neutralizing the cosmic threat. Carl and Aurora directed the Galactic Coalition to seek out remnants of this mysterious civilization, believing that uncovering the origins of the Void Devourer might provide the key to its defeat. As exploration teams were dispatched to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the merged consciousness of Carl and Aurora continued to coordinate the defense efforts. Their love for each other and for the galaxy they protected burned at the core of the vast network they now embodied, driving them to push beyond the limits of their new existence in the race to save all life from annihilation, the destruction of all they held dear. As Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness continued to coordinate the galaxy's defenses, a new revelation sent shockwaves through their vast network of information. The Void Devourer was not a natural phenomenon, but an artificial construct. This startling discovery prompted an immediate shift in strategy. While maintaining their defensive efforts, Carl and Aurora began directing resources towards uncovering the origins of this cosmic threat. They reached out to Ambassador Marcus Holloway, their thoughts transmitted directly into his mind through the resonator network. Ambassador, their unified voice echoed in Holloway's consciousness. We need to assemble a team to investigate the Void Devourer's creation. This could be the key to its defeat. Holloway, his eyes widening at the implications, nodded in agreement. I know just the person for the job, he replied, already reaching for his communication device. Within hours, Dr. Alara Venn arrived at the Nexus Citadel. The renowned xenoarchaeologist strode into the control room, her keen eyes taking in the bustling activity around her. "Ambassador Holloway," she greeted, her voice crisp and professional. "I understand we have a mystery to solve." As Holloway briefed Dr. Venn on the situation, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness observed the interaction, analyzing the scientist's reactions and thought processes. They sensed her excitement, her mind already racing with possibilities. "We'll need a diverse team," Dr. Venn stated, her fingers flying over a datapad as she compiled a list of potential candidates. "Scientists, explorers, linguists, we're dealing with an unknown civilization here." While Dr. Venn assembled her team, the ongoing battle against the Void Devourer raged on. Zax Vortex's mobile energy relay stations proved their worth in a series of intense skirmishes. Admiral Cora Thal's holographic form appeared in the control room, her face etched with both exhaustion and determination. "The mobile stations are working," she reported, her voice tinged with relief. "We've managed to create safe zones in the Orion and Perseus arms, buying time for evacuations." Carl and Aurora's consciousness expanded, encompassing the entire battlefield. They watched as the relay stations repositioned, creating a dynamic, ever-shifting defense grid. Through their connection to the resonator network, they felt the strain on the volunteers, the constant mental link taking its toll. Dr. Relik Varn, his lab coat stained with various fluids, burst into the control room. "We need to address the resonator fatigue," he announced, his voice urgent. "I have some ideas for refining the hybridization process, but we need more time." As if in response to this challenge, a group of volunteers stepped forward. Couples from various species, their hands clasped tightly, offered themselves for a modified version of Carl and Aurora's full merger process. "We want to help," a human male named Jin declared, his arm around his Krenim partner Lyra. "Our bond is strong. We believe we can withstand the strain together." The progenitors, intrigued by this development, agreed to oversee the procedure. Carl and Aurora watched through the station's sensors as Jun and Lyra entered the merger chamber, their forms slowly dissolving and intertwining. Hours passed, the tension in the control room palpable. Finally, a new consciousness bloomed within the network, Jun and Lyra unified and strong. Their merger sent a surge of energy through the defense grid, bolstering its power and reach. Encouraged by this success, more couples volunteered. With each successful fusion, the network grew stronger, the burden on Carl and Aurora's core consciousness lessening. The merged couples brought new perspectives and abilities to the collective effort, their unique combinations of skills and knowledge enhancing the overall defense strategy. As these events unfolded, Dr. Alara Venn's exploration team made a groundbreaking discovery. Their long-range sensors detected an anomaly on the outer rim of the galaxy, an ancient space station of unknown origin. "We're picking up some strange energy readings," Dr. Venn reported, her voice crackling over the comms. "The architecture is unlike anything in our databases. We're moving in for a closer look." Carl and Aurora's consciousness followed the exploration team as they carefully approached the station. They watched through the ship's sensors as Dr. Venn and her team donned protective suits and prepared to board the alien facility. The team moved cautiously through the station's corridors, their helmet lights illuminating strange, flowing patterns on the walls. Suddenly, a holographic interface sprang to life before them, speaking in an unknown language. "Patching this through to you now," Dr. Venn said, establishing a direct link to the Nexus Citadel. Carl and Aurora's vast processing power immediately began analyzing the alien language, comparing it to every known linguistic database in the galaxy. Slowly, patterns began to emerge, fragments of meaning coalescing into coherent thoughts. As the translation efforts progressed, Dr. Venn's team pushed deeper into the station. They entered a massive central chamber and froze, their suit cameras transmitting a chilling image back to the Nexus citadel. Suspended in a shimmering containment field was a miniature version of the Void Devourer. "By the stars," Dr. Venn breathed, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and fear. "It's a research facility. They were studying it here." The implications of this discovery sent shockwaves through the Galactic Coalition. The miniature Void Devourer offered an unprecedented opportunity to study the cosmic entity up close, potentially revealing weaknesses that could be exploited. However, it also presented a significant danger if the containment field were to fail. Dr. Venn, her scientific curiosity warring with caution, made a decision. "We're staying," she announced. "The potential benefits outweigh the risks. But we'll need additional resources to secure the facility and begin a proper investigation." Admiral Cora Thal, recognizing the strategic importance of the discovery, immediately dispatched a contingent of ships to guard the ancient station. As the Galactic fleet repositioned to accommodate this new development, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness detected a subtle shift in the Void Devourer's behavior. The cosmic entity's attack patterns changed, focusing more of its efforts on probing specific sectors of the galaxy. It was as if the Void Devourer was searching for something, perhaps related to its origins or purpose. As the Galactic Coalition grappled with these new developments, Carl and Aurora's consciousness expanded further, encompassing the vast network of minds now joined in the defense effort. They prepared to face the challenges ahead, knowing that the key to the galaxy's survival lay in unraveling the mysteries of the Void Devourer's creation. The battle was nowhere near the end, but for the first time since the conflict began, a glimmer of hope shone in the darkness of space. The glimmer of hope that had emerged grew brighter as Dr. Alara Venn's team delved deeper into the mysteries of the ancient research station. Their efforts to decipher the alien language bore fruit, and the holographic interface began to yield its secrets. As the translation algorithms worked tirelessly, Dr. Venn's eyes widened with each new revelation. She leaned closer to the shimmering display, her breath fogging her helmet visor. "This is incredible," she whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. Back at the Nexus Citadel, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness absorbed the incoming data stream. The information flowed through their vast network, each bit analyzed and contextualized in microseconds. The Void Devourer. Dr. Venn's voice crackled over the comm channel. "It's not a natural phenomenon at all. It's artificial, created by a civilization called the Architects." Ambassador Holloway, standing in the control room, leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Architects? What was their purpose?" Dr. Venn's response came after a brief pause. "They were trying to combat the heat death of the universe. The Void Devourer was designed as a self-replicating energy harvester, but it grew beyond their control, leading to their own extinction." The implications of this revelation rippled through the Galactic Coalition. Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness quickly formulated a new strategy, their thoughts racing at the speed of light. "We need to find more of these Architect stations." Their unified voice echoed through the resonator network. "They may hold the key to neutralizing or reprogramming the Void Devourer." Admiral Cora Thal, her holographic form shimmering in the control room, nodded in agreement. "I'll divide the fleet into search parties. Each will be led by a pair of merged resonators to enhance their detection capabilities." As the fleet dispersed across the galaxy, Zach's vortex approached the central console, his eyes gleaming with a familiar mischievous spark. "I have an idea," he announced, pulling up a series of schematics on the main display. "We need to study this thing up close. I propose we capture a piece of it." The room fell silent as Vortex outlined his daring plan. He described a specialized containment vessel, a fusion of progenitor technology, and insights gained from the Architect station. "We'll lure a tendril of the entity, using the energy signatures of multiple relay stations," he explained, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. While preparations for Vortex's plan began, Dr. Relic Varn burst into the control room, his eyes wide with excitement. "You won't believe what I've discovered," he exclaimed, his words tumbling out in a rush. "The hybridization process we use to create resonators. It's spreading naturally among populations in close contact with the merged couples." The room erupted into a flurry of activity as the implications of this unintended side effect became clear. The process was accelerating genetic compatibility between species, inadvertently fulfilling the progenitor's original goal of galactic unity. As news of the genetic changes spread, panic gripped some sectors of the galaxy. Ambassador Holloway found himself working tirelessly to calm fears and promote acceptance. He organized public demonstrations showcasing the benefits of hybridization, highlighting enhanced physical abilities and increased cognitive function. Amidst this social upheaval, a new movement emerged. Calling themselves the Children of Unity, they were led by a charismatic hybrid named Scylla Vex. Their message of embracing the genetic changes and creating a new, unified galactic species resonated deeply, particularly among younger generations. Meanwhile, the search for architect stations continued. One of the exploration teams, led by the merged resonators Kira and Jax, stumbled upon an astonishing discovery hidden within a nebula, an ancient shipyard containing incomplete architect vessels of immense size. "Admiral," Kira's voice crackled over the comm, "you need to see this. These ships, they could rival the Void Devourer itself." Admiral Thal immediately redirected resources to secure and study the shipyard, recognizing its immense strategic value. Back at the research station, Dr. Ven's team made another critical breakthrough. They uncovered a prototype device designed to manipulate the Void Devourer's energy structure. However, its activation required an enormous amount of power and a unique form of consciousness to operate safely. As this information reached the Nexus Citadel, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness realized the implications. "We may be the key to utilizing this technology." Their unified voice resonated through the network. With all these developments in motion, Zax Vortex's plan to capture a portion of the Void Devourer moved forward. Admiral Thal led a task force of ships in a precisely coordinated maneuver to isolate a tendril of the cosmic entity. The operation succeeded, but at a cost. Several ships were lost in the process, their crews making the ultimate sacrifice for the greater good. The captured fragment proved highly unstable, requiring constant monitoring and energy input to maintain containment. As these events unfolded, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness detected a disturbing pattern in the Void Devourer's behavior. The entity was systematically destroying systems with dormant architect technology, bypassing heavily defended areas in favor of seemingly random targets. This revelation forced the Galactic Coalition to accelerate their plans. The race was on to locate and activate the remaining architect stations before the Void Devourer could destroy them. In the midst of this frenzied activity, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness came to a difficult realization. To coordinate the complex series of actions needed to defend the galaxy, they would need to temporarily separate their consciousness and operate from two different strategic locations. The risks were enormous. Their separation could potentially destabilize the entire defense network. Yet, they knew it might be their only chance for victory. As they prepared for the separation process, Carl and Aurora's energy formed intertwined one last time. Their connection intensified, a silent promise passing between them. Whatever the outcome, they would face it together, even when apart. The fate of the galactic realm now hung in the balance, poised on the edge of a knife. As the separation process began, Carl and Aurora focused their vast consciousness on the task ahead, determined to maintain their bond across the vastness of space and save all of the galaxy they had sworn to protect. The separation process began, a cascade of energy rippling through the vast network of minds. Carl and Aurora's consciousness diverged, their unified form splitting into two distinct entities. For a brief moment, the Galactic Defense Network flickered, causing a wave of panic among the Coalition forces. Admiral Cora Thal's voice cut through the chaos. Status report. Stabilizing. Came the response from the Nexus Citadel's control room. Carl's consciousness is integrating with our primary systems. On the Architect Research Station, Dr. Alara Venn watched as Aurora's energy signature merged with the prototype manipulation device. The machine hummed to life, its previously dormant circuits pulsing with newfound power. Connection established, Dr. Venn reported. Aurora is now interfacing directly with the Architect technology. With the separated entities now in place, Admiral Thal wasted no time in launching her coordinated assault. The Galactic fleet moved as one, their formations precisely calculated by Carl's vast processing power. Starships streaked across the void, engaging the Void Devourer's writhing tendrils in a dazzling display of energy weapons and shield impacts. As the main fleet occupied the cosmic entity's attention, a specialized task force slipped through the chaos. Their mission: to activate the dormant Architect stations scattered throughout the galaxy. Each successful activation sent a surge of data back to Carl, allowing him to refine the fleet's tactics in real time. On the research station, Dr. Venn and her team worked feverishly to unlock the full potential of the energy manipulation device. Aurora's consciousness guided their efforts, providing insights that would have taken years to discover through conventional means. Initiating pulse sequence, Dr. Venn announced, her fingers dancing across the alien controls. The device thrummed, releasing waves of energy that rippled through space. Where they intersected with the Void Devourer, its form distorted and shimmered. The cosmic entity recoiled, its attacks momentarily disrupted. In the containment chamber housing the captured Void Devourer fragment, Zach's vortex noticed an unexpected reaction. The sample pulsed in sync with the energy waves, revealing intricate patterns in its structure. "By the stars," Vortex muttered, his eyes wide. He opened a communication channel to both Carl and Aurora. "I think we've found a weakness. The fragment is resonating with the Architect device. If we can amplify this effect." As Vortex's discovery spread through the Coalition forces, a new wave of hope surged through the ranks. However, the battle was far from won. The Void Devourer lashed out with renewed fury, its tendrils sweeping through populated systems with devastating effect. Admiral Thal, her holographic form flickering in the Nexus Citadel's war room, made a decisive call. "Activate the Architect vessels. All of them." The ancient shipyard burst into activity. Massive ships, hybrids of Architect design and modern engineering, powered up their systems. Admiral Thal transferred her command to the flagship of this new fleet, her consciousness interfacing directly with its advanced systems. As the battle raged across the galaxy, the Children of Unity movement gained momentum. Scylla Vex addressed massive crowds on key worlds, his voice carried across the stars by the Resonator network. "We stand at the threshold of a new era," Vex proclaimed. "Our unity is our strength. Embrace the change that flows through us all." The social upheaval added another layer of complexity to the conflict. Ambassador Marcus Holloway found himself stretched thin, balancing the needs of the war effort with the rapidly changing political landscape. Meanwhile, Dr. Relic Varn's team raced against time to stabilize the accelerating hybridization process. In laboratories across the galaxy, they worked tirelessly to develop a method to control the genetic changes sweeping through the population. As the conflict reached its zenith, Carl and Aurora's separated consciousnesses began to show signs of strain. The defense network fluctuated, its efficiency dropping in sporadic bursts. In the Nexus Citadel's core, Carl's energy form pulsed erratically. On the Architect station, Aurora's connection to the manipulation device wavered. Their silent promise echoed across the vast distances between them. They would find a way to reunite, to become whole once more. But for now, the future of the cosmos hung in the balance, and they had a job to do. The Void Devourer, sensing the Coalition's growing strength, launch a massive assault on the Nexus citadel. Carl diverted all available resources to maintain the station's defenses, leaving the Galactic fleet momentarily, without his precise coordination. Aurora, feeling Carl's distress across the vastness of space, pushed the energy manipulation device beyond its intended limits. A shimmering protective field enveloped the citadel, buying precious time for the defenders. As alarms blared throughout the Nexus citadel, Zack's Vortex's voice cut through the chaos. He outlined his plan to create a controlled singularity, a bold strategy that could potentially end the conflict once and for all. The coalition leaders, faced with this high-risk proposal, found themselves at a crossroads. Continue their current strategy of containment and gradual neutralization, or take a leap into the unknown with Vortex's plan. As discussions raged and the Void Devourer's assault intensified, Carl and Aurora's consciousnesses reached out across the galaxy, their bond strained but unbroken. In this moment of crisis, the fate of countless worlds and the future of their unique connection hung in the balance. Balance hung in the balance. A tense silence fell over the war room. All eyes turned to Admiral Cora Thal, her holographic form flickering as she processed the weight of the decision before her. "Implement Vortex's plan," she commanded, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We've come too far to hesitate now." The order sent shockwaves through the assembled coalition leaders. Engineers and scientists sprang into action, their hands flying over control panels as they began the intricate process of modifying the energy manipulation device. On the Architect Research Station, Dr. Alara Ven's team worked with feverish intensity. Aurora's consciousness, still integrated with the device, pulsed with an otherworldly glow as the modifications took shape. "Initiating primary sequence," Dr. Ven announced, her voice taut with concentration. "Aurora, are you ready?" A surge of energy rippled through the device in response. The air crackled with power as the first energy pulses erupted from the machine, resonating with the captured Void Devourer fragment. In space, Admiral Thal's voice rang out across the comm channels. "All ships, assume attack formation Delta. Prepare to engage on my mark." The hybrid Architect vessels moved into position, their massive forms dwarfing the standard ships of the Galactic fleet. Energy built up along their sleek hulls, ready to unleash devastation upon the Void Devourer. "Fire!" Thal's command cut through the tense silence. Beams of blinding energy lanced out from the Architect ships, carving into the Void Devourer's writhing form. Where the beams struck, the cosmic entity's structure wavered and split, revealing temporary gaps in its defenses. "Striker squadrons, you have your opening," Thal's voice crackled over the comm. "Deploy energy disruptors and get out fast." Swarms of smaller craft darted through the gaps, their pilots pushing their ships to the limit. They weaved through the chaotic battlefield, planting energy disruptors at strategic points within the Void Devourer's structure. As the space battle raged, Dr. Relic Varn's team on a distant research outpost made their own breakthrough. The gene therapy treatment to stabilize the accelerated hybridization process was ready. "Uploading the treatment data to the Galactic network now," Dr. Varn reported, his fingers flying over the console. Medical facilities across all major systems should receive it within minutes. The news of the treatment's success spread rapidly, reaching the ears of Scylla Vex and his Children of Unity movement. Seizing the moment, Vex organized massive rallies on central worlds. "Brothers and sisters," Vex's voice boomed across crowded plazas, "our time has come. We stand united, stronger than ever before. Our hybridization is not a curse, but a gift, one that will ensure our survival against a cosmic threat." As Vex's words ignited the crowds, the strain on Carl's consciousness at the Nexus Citadel reached a critical point. The defense network fluctuated dangerously, threatening to create fatal vulnerabilities in the Coalition's defenses. Dr. Ven's voice cut through the chaos of the Citadel's control room. "We need to establish the consciousness bridge now. or we risk losing everything. Technicians scrambled to implement Ven's plan, their hands shaking as they manipulated the ancient architect technology. Energy surged through the systems, creating a tenuous link between Carl and Aurora's separated consciousnesses. The moment the bridge activated, a massive energy wave rippled through the defense network. Ships across the battlefield momentarily lost power, their weapons and shields flickering ominously. In this instant of vulnerability, the Void Devourer struck. Its tendrils lashed out, breaching the Nexus Citadel's outer defenses. Alarms blared throughout the station as the cosmic entity's influence began to seep into its core. Admiral Thal's voice, tight with urgency, rang out across all channels. All ships, converge on the Citadel. Form a defensive perimeter at all costs. The Galactic fleet responded, ships of all sizes breaking off from their engagements to rush to the Citadel's aid. They formed a living shield around the station, their hulls absorbing the brunt of the Void Devourer's assault. As the battle for the Nexus Citadel reached its zenith, the energy manipulation device on the research station achieved critical mass. A swirling vortex of energy burst into existence, its gravitational pull immediately affecting the Void Devourer's outer layers. The cosmic entity's form began to distort, parts of its vast body drawn inexorably towards the growing singularity. Yet the process proved more volatile than anticipated, threatening to overwhelm the architect systems. Aurora's consciousness, intertwined with the device, struggled to maintain control. Her energy signature flickered erratically as she grappled with the escalating forces. Zack's Vortex's voice cut through the chaos. We need to channel the excess energy through the relay stations. It's our only chance to stabilize the singularity. The improvised plan required split-second coordination across vast distances. Carl and Aurora, linked through the consciousness bridge, became the linchpin of the entire operation. As the excess energy from the singularity began to flow through the network of relay stations, the Void Devourer's behavior grew increasingly erratic. Parts of its body collapsed into the growing vortex, while others lashed out with unprecedented ferocity. Entire star systems found themselves engulfed in the chaos. Planets trembled, their orbits destabilized by the immense gravitational forces at play. The fate of countless worlds hung in the balance as the singularity continued to grow, its hunger seemingly insatiable. In the heart of the Nexus Citadel, Carl's consciousness pulsed with renewed strength, bolstered by his connection to Aurora. Together, they coordinated the intricate dance of energies, guiding the flow of power through the relay stations with precision. Admiral Thal's voice, strained but unbroken, echoed through the command channels. Hold the line! We cannot falter now. The hybrid architect vessels, their weapons still blazing, formed the vanguard of the defense. They weathered the Void Devourer's assault, buying precious time for the singularity to grow and for the energy redistribution to take effect. As the battle raged on, the galaxy stood on a knife's edge. The next few moments would determine whether the Coalition's risky move would result in salvation or annihilation. The Void Devourer's writhing form continued to be drawn into the singularity, its cosmic hunger finally meeting a force that could match its appetite. In the control room of the research station, Dr. Venn watched the energy readings with suspenseful pause. The singularity's growth was slowing, stabilizing as the excess energy found new pathways through the relay network. But would it be enough? Enough to contain the cosmic threat? The question hung heavy in the air as Dr. Venn's eyes darted between the fluctuating energy readings and the swirling vortex visible through the station's viewports. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the research station. The singularity's growth rate spiked, threatening to overwhelm the carefully calibrated systems. Aurora's consciousness, still intertwined with the energy manipulation device, pulsed erratically as she struggled to maintain control. We're losing stability, Dr. Venn shouted, her fingers flying over the control panel. The singularity is growing too fast. At that moment, Carl's voice crackled through the communication system, strained and distorted. Aurora, I can't. Hold! The defenses, the linked consciousnesses of Carl and Aurora, stretched thin across vast distances, began to falter under the immense pressure. The defense grid flickered dangerously, creating gaps in the Coalition's protective shield. Dr. Alara Ven's mind raced, searching for a solution. Her eyes landed on an ancient architect data crystal, its surface glowing faintly in the chaos of the control room. An idea struck her with the force of a supernova. "Zax!" she called out, her voice cutting through the cacophony of alarms and shouted orders. "We need to create an avatar." Zax Vortex's holographic form materialized beside her, his expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "An avatar? What are you proposing, Doctor?" Dr. Ven's words tumbled out in a rush of excitement and urgency. "We can use the architect technology to create a physical form capable of housing both Carl and Aurora's consciousnesses. It's risky, but it might be our only chance to stabilize the situation." Vortex's eyes widened as he grasped the implications. Without hesitation, he nodded. "I'll modify one of my energy relay stations. It should serve as an ideal platform for the avatar creation process." As Vortex's hologram disappeared, Dr. Ven turned to her team. "Prepare for consciousness transfer. We need to move fast." Outside the research station, the battle raged with renewed intensity. Admiral Cora Thal's voice rang out across the comm channels, steady despite the chaos surrounding her. "All ships, execute maneuver Epsilon 3. Create openings for our strike teams." The hybrid architect vessels moved with impossible grace, their energy weapons carving paths through the void devourer's writhing form. In their wake, smaller craft darted forward, each carrying a specialized team armed with energy disruptors. "Strike teams, you have your targets," Thal commanded. "Plant those disruptors and get out fast." As the strike teams carried out their daring mission, Dr. Relik Varn's voice cut through on a separate channel. "Gene therapy treatment distribution at 87% and climbing. We're seeing widespread stabilization of the hybridization process." The news of the treatment success spread like wildfire through the fleet. Inspired by this breakthrough, more volunteers came forward to join the Resonator program, eager to contribute to the defense efforts. On key worlds across the galaxy, Scylla Vex seized the moment. His voice boomed across crowded plazas and echoed through virtual channels. "Brothers and sisters of the cosmos, our unity is our strength. Let us join together and show the universe the power of our collective will." Billions of beings, their bodies and minds transformed by the hybridization process, responded to Vex's call. In a breathtaking display of solidarity, they focused their thoughts and energies in a synchronized moment of unity. The effect was immediate and stunning. A visible ripple spread through space-time, amplifying the power of the energy manipulation device. The Void Devourer recoiled, its assault momentarily faltering. Back on the modified relay station, Zax Vortex and Dr. Ven worked feverishly to complete the avatar creation process. Energy from the Singularity, the Nexus Citadel, and the Architect Research Station converged on their location, causing the station to shimmer and distort. "Initiating final sequence," Vortex announced, his hands dancing over the controls. "Prepare for consciousness transfer." A blinding flash of energy engulfed the station. For a heart-stopping moment, all communication ceased. Then, slowly, the light faded to reveal a transformed structure. Where the relay station had been, a humanoid figure now stood, its form pulsing with barely suppressed power. Inside the avatar, Carl and Aurora's consciousnesses swirled together, merging and separating in a complex dance. Their shared essence filled every atom of their new form, connecting them more intimately than ever before. As the avatar stabilized, a shockwave of energy rippled outward, temporarily disrupting the defense network. The Void Devourer, sensing weakness, launched a massive counterattack. All ships defensive formation. Admiral Thal's voice rang out. Protect the Avatar and the Singularity Generator at all costs. The Galactic fleet responded instantly, forming a living shield around the newly created being. Energy beams lanced out from the hybrid architect vessels, holding the cosmic entity at bay. Within the Avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness reached out, taking control of the faltering defense systems. Their shared mind, amplified by the Avatar's incredible capabilities, began to reshape the Singularity. The swirling vortex of energy transformed, its structure becoming more complex with each passing second. What had been a simple gravitational well now became an intricate energy matrix, perfectly tuned to trap and neutralize the Void Devourer's essence. Recognizing the threat, the cosmic entity focused its attacks on the Avatar. Massive tendrils of void energy slammed against the defensive lines, seeking to destroy this new adversary before it could fully harness its power. In response to this focused assault, Scylla Vex made a bold decision. Gathering a group of the most highly evolved hybrids, he led a daring attack on the Void Devourer's core. For unity, for our future, Vex's rallying cry echoed across the battlefield as his team plunged into the heart of the cosmic threat. Using their enhanced abilities, Vex and his followers created disturbances within the Void Devourer's energy structure. Their actions provided a crucial distraction, buying time for the Avatar to complete its work on the Singularity. As the battle reached its zenith, the Avatar of Carl and Aurora stood at the center of the maelstrom, wielding the combined power of human ingenuity, alien technology, and the ancient architect's legacy. The future of the stars hung in the balance, with the next moments promising to test the limits of their bond and the strength of the united galactic forces. The Void Devourer's tendrils lashed out with renewed fury, threatening to overwhelm the defensive lines. Admiral Thal's voice, strained but unbroken, rang out across the comm channels. Hold. Hold the line. We cannot falter now. Admiral Thal's words galvanized the fleet into action. The hybrid architect vessels surged forward, forming a protective perimeter around the newly created Avatar. Energy beams lanced out from their hulls, holding the Void Devourer at bay as it launched a massive counterattack. Within the Avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness reached out, taking control of the faltering defense systems. Their shared mind, amplified by the Avatar's incredible capabilities, began to reshape the Singularity. The swirling vortex of energy transformed, its structure becoming more complex with each passing second. Admiral Thal's voice crackled over the comm channels once more. All ships, execute maneuver Epsilon 3. Create openings for our strike teams. The fleet moved with practiced precision, their coordinated efforts carving paths through the Void Devourer's riding form. In their wake, smaller craft darted forward, each carrying specialized teams armed with energy disruptors. As the strike teams carried out their daring mission, Dr. Relikvarn's update cut through on a separate channel. Gene therapy treatment distribution at 92% and climbing. We're seeing widespread stabilization of the hybridization process. The news spread like wildfire through the fleet, inspiring more volunteers to join the Resonator program. On key worlds across the galaxy, Scylla Vex seized a moment. His voice boomed across crowded plazas and echoed through virtual channels. Brothers and sisters of the cosmos, our unity is our strength. Let us join together and show the universe the power of our collective will. Billions of beings responded to Vex's call, their newly stabilized hybrid bodies and minds focusing their thoughts and energies in a synchronized moment of unity. A visible ripple spread through space-time, amplifying the power of the energy manipulation device. The Void Devourer recoiled, its assault momentarily faltering. Seizing the opportunity, Scylla Vex gathered a group of the most highly evolved hybrids. For unity, for our future. His rallying cry echoed across the battlefield as his team plunged into the heart of the cosmic threat. Using their enhanced abilities, Vex and his followers created disturbances within the Void Devourer's energy structure. Their actions provided a crucial distraction, buying time for the Avatar to complete its work on the Singularity. As Vex and his team penetrated deeper into the Void Devourer's core, they made a startling discovery. The cosmic entity contained remnants of countless absorbed civilizations, including fragments of architect technology. Vex's voice, tinged with awe and urgency, crackled over the comm. Command, we've found something. The Void Devourer. It's not just a destroyer. It's a repository of lost civilizations. The information reached the Avatar, and Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness quickly formulated a new plan. They began to use the reconfigured Singularity not just as a trap, but as a means to separate and preserve the remnants of absorbed civilizations while neutralizing the Void Devourer's destructive essence. The implementation of this plan caused a massive surge of energy throughout the battlefield. The Void Devourer's outer layers began to peel away, revealing a swirling mass of preserved information and technology from ancient civilizations. Dr. Alara Ven's voice cut through the chaos. We've uncovered a hidden subroutine within the station systems. It can enhance the Avatar's ability to control and reshape energy. Zack's vortex's holographic form flickered to life beside her. Transmitting the data now. I'm integrating it into the modified relay station. As the Avatar's power grew, an unexpected phenomenon swept across the galaxy. The widespread genetic stability brought about by Dr. Varn's treatment led to a surge of latent psychic abilities among the newly stabilized hybrids. A low-level telepathic field spanning multiple star systems emerged, inadvertently amplifying the Avatar's connection to the Galactic Defense Network. Admiral Thal, quick to adapt, implemented a new strategy. All psychically gifted hybrids form nexus points throughout the fleet, act as signal boosters for the Avatar's commands. The effect was immediate. The Avatar's control over defensive systems and weapon platforms became faster and more precise. Energy beams danced across space with impossible accuracy, targeting the Void Devourer's weakest points. But the cosmic entity was far from defeated. It changed tactics, targeting the energy relay stations scattered across the galaxy. Massive tendrils of void energy lashed out, threatening to disrupt the power supply to the Avatar and the Singularity generator. Zack's vortex's voice rang out, calm despite the chaos, activating backup power systems in nearby nebulae. Rerouting energy now. Hidden within the volatile gases of surrounding nebulae, backup power systems flared to life, providing a stable power source for the crucial defense infrastructure. As the Avatar neared completion of the Singularity's reconfiguration, a new challenge emerged. The immense energies involved in the process began to create spatial distortions, threatening to destabilize the very fabric of space-time in the surrounding systems. Dr. Ven's team worked frantically to modify the Architect Station's shielding technology for large-scale deployment. "We need more time," Ven shouted over the comm. "The spatial distortions are growing too quickly." Admiral Thal's response was immediate. "All ships, defensive formation Delta. Concentrate fire on the areas of highest distortion." The Galactic Fleet moved as one, their combined firepower creating a temporary buffer against the growing spatial anomalies. But it was clear that this was only a stopgap measure. Within the Avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness pushed their new form to its limits. They directed the reconfigured Singularity with precision, carefully extracting the preserved remnants of ancient civilizations while containing the Void Devourer's destructive essence. The process triggered a violent reaction from the cosmic entity's core. A series of devastating energy pulses erupted, threatening to overwhelm the Galactic Fleet's defenses. Deploy experimental shield harmonics. Admiral Thal ordered. Rotate ships in and out of the front lines to prevent system overloads. The new shields, a fusion of architect and modern galactic technology, held against the energy pulses. But the strain on the ship's power systems was enormous. Zach's Vortex's voice, tight with tension, cut through the battle chatter. Energy levels are rising exponentially. The relay network can't handle the load. We need to redistribute. As Vortex worked to tap into the power grids of nearby star systems, the Avatar stood at the center of a maelstrom of cosmic energies. Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness pushed harder, unraveling the Void Devourer while preserving the remnants of ancient civilizations. The battle had reached its zenith. The galaxy teetered on the brink of either a monumental victory or catastrophic defeat. As energy levels continued to rise and spatial distortions threatened to tear apart the fabric of space-time, the united forces of the galaxy prepared for the final phase of their high-stakes endeavor to save existence itself. In the heart of the chaos, the Avatar's form pulsed with scarcely controlled power. Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness reached out, their voice resonating across the battlefield. "We're almost there. Hold on. Just a little longer." Longer. As the Avatar's voice resonated across the battlefield, the strain on the energy network reached critical levels. Zach's Vortex's frantic efforts to redistribute the power load proved insufficient. Relay stations across the galaxy began to overload, their systems unable to cope with the immense energies coursing through them. "We're losing stability," Zach shouted, his holographic form flickering as he worked furiously to maintain the network. "The power grid can't handle this level of output." The resulting energy surges cascaded through the galactic defense systems. Shield generators sputtered and weapon platforms went offline, leaving the fleet exposed. Admiral Cora Thal's voice crackled over the comm, her tone tense but controlled. "All ships, reroute auxiliary power to shields. Prepare for incoming." The Void Devourer, sensing the weakness in its opponents, seized the opportunity. Massive tendrils of void energy slammed into the weakened defenses, breaching the carefully established perimeter. Several ships at the forefront of the formation were engulfed by the cosmic entity's swirling mass. "Mayday! Mayday!" The panic cries of trapped crews filled the comm channels as their vessels were pulled into the chaotic mix of preserved information and destructive essence. Dr. Alara Ven's voice cut through the chaos. "Activating modified architect, shielding now." At her command, experimental shield generators hummed to life, projecting barriers of shimmering energy around key strategic points. The shields created pockets of stable space-time within the turbulent battlefield, offering a measure of protection to the beleaguered fleet. "The shields are holding," Dr. Venn reported, "but they're drawing massive amounts of power. We can't maintain this indefinitely." As the battle raged, a familiar voice echoed across the comm channels. "Avatar, we have critical information." It was Silavex, his team of evolved hybrids, having just escaped the collapsing structure of the Void Devourer. Within the Avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness acknowledged Vex transmission. The data flooded in, detailed scans of the cosmic entity's internal composition and the nature of the preserved civilizations within it. Armed with this new information, the Avatar refined its extraction process, increasing efficiency and reducing overall energy requirements. Energy consumption down by 18%, Zach's Vortex reported, a note of relief in his voice. "It's helping, but we're still on the edge." As the Avatar continued its work, an unexpected phenomenon swept across the galaxy. The latent psychic abilities of the stabilized hybrid population surged, forming a vast telepathic network that linked billions of minds across immense distances. The Avatar tapped into this network, its voice resonating in the minds of countless beings. "We are one. Together, we stand against the void." Through this connection, The Avatar coordinated defense efforts with unprecedented precision, channeling the collective will of united species into the singularity manipulation process. Observing the rapid evolution of hybrid abilities, Dr. Relik Varn set to work on a new gene therapy treatment. If we can accelerate and control the development of these psychic powers, he mused, fingers flying over holographic displays, we might be able to create a new generation of hybrid warriors capable of directly confronting the Void Devourer on a metaphysical level. The Avatar's efforts began to yield tangible results. Pockets of ancient knowledge and technology materialized in the space surrounding the reconfigured singularity, remnants of long-lost civilizations extracted from the Void Devourer's mass. Admiral Thal, recognizing the potential value of these artifacts, dispatched specialized recovery teams. Secure those remnants, she ordered. They could be crucial for the ongoing fight and our future rebuilding efforts. As the extraction process continued, the core of the Void Devourer grew increasingly unstable. Its attacks became more frenzied and erratic, causing unpredictable spatial distortions throughout the battlefield. Ships were forced to constantly adjust their positions, narrowly avoiding rifts in space-time that open and close in the blink of an eye. Zack's vortex, his holographic form now a constant presence on the bridge of multiple ships, implemented a desperate measure. Initiating controlled overload of peripheral relay stations, he announced. Prepare for energy surge in 3, 2, 1. A blinding flash of light engulfed the battlefield as several relay stations detonated in carefully orchestrated sequence. The resulting energy burst supercharged the Avatar's connection to the singularity, allowing Carl and Aurora to accelerate the extraction process. But the cost was high. A significant portion of the energy distribution network burned out, leaving many systems running on backup power. The increased pace of extraction sent shockwaves through the Void Devourer's structure, parts of the cosmic entity collapsing on themselves, while others expanded rapidly, threatening to engulf entire star systems. The Avatar redirected its efforts, working to contain these violent reactions and channel the released energy back into the singularity. As the situation reached a critical point, a new complication arose. The extracted remnants of ancient civilizations began to coalesce, forming distinct energy patterns that interacted with the surrounding space-time fabric. These echoes of long-lost species and technologies created localized pockets of altered physics, where the normal rules of reality seemed to bend and warp. Deploy containment fields around those anomalies. Admiral Thal ordered, her voice sharp with urgency. And get our research teams on this immediately. If we can understand these phenomena, we might find a new way to combat the Void Devourer. Within the Avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness experienced a moment of profound clarity. Through their connection to the singularity and the galactic psychic network, they discerned a pattern within the chaos of the Void Devourer's structure. A potential weak point emerged, a nexus where the entities preserve information and destructive essence intertwined in a vulnerable configuration. The Avatar's voice resonated across the battlefield once more, filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. We've found a way to end this, but it will require everything we have. Every ship, every mind, every ounce of power we can muster. As the united forces of the galaxy prepared for this final, desperate push, the Avatar began to channel the combined power of the singularity, the psychic network, and the recovered architect technologies. Energy levels surged once more, pushing systems to their absolute limits. The Void Devourer, sensing the impending attack, lashed out with renewed fury. Tendrils of void energy whipped across space, slamming into ships and shield barriers with devastating force. But the defenders held firm, their drive strengthened by the knowledge that victory was within reach. With a silent command, the Avatar unleashed a focused assault on the cosmic entity's newly discovered vulnerability. A lance of pure energy, more powerful than anything seen before in the history of the galaxy, streaked towards the heart of the Void Devourer. As it struck home, The battlefield erupted in a cataclysm of light and sound, the very fabric of space-time buckling under the strain of the titanic forces unleashed. Unleashed. Time seemed to slow as the energy lance pierced the Void Devourer's core, its impact reverberating through the very fabric of reality. For a moment, silence engulfed the battlefield. Then, with a deafening roar, the cosmic entity convulsed. Tendrils of void energy lashed out wildly, striking ships and tearing through space itself. Admiral Cora Thal's voice cut through the chaos, her words crisp and decisive. All ships form up. Defensive perimeter around the Avatar. Now! The Galactic fleet moved as one, their formation tightening around Carl and Aurora's merged form. Energy shields flared to life, creating a barrier between the Avatar and the Void Devourer's increasingly frantic attacks. Within the Avatar, Carl and Aurora's consciousness strained under the immense power flowing through them. The combined might of the Singularity, Psychic Network, and Architect technologies surged outward in a continuous stream of brilliant energy. Striking at the cosmic entity's newly discovered weak point, a massive shockwave erupted from the point of impact, rippling through space-time. Communications across the battlefield crackled and died, sensor arrays overloaded by the surge of energy. For several agonizing seconds, the united forces fought blind, relying on pre-planned maneuvers and sheer instinct to maintain their positions. As the initial shockwave passed, the true scope of its effect became apparent. The Void Devourer's outer layers began to fracture and collapse, releasing pockets of preserved civilizations and ancient technologies into the surrounding space. Zack's Vortex's holographic form flickered to life on multiple ship bridges simultaneously. Collection vessels deploy now. We can't let those remnants disperse. A swarm of specialized ships broke from the main fleet, racing towards the released pockets of information and matter. Their crews worked feverishly, using advanced containment fields to gather the invaluable fragments of long-lost civilizations. The extraction process triggered a chain reaction within the Void Devourer's core. Its outer layers collapsed faster, releasing enormous amounts of energy that threatened to overwhelm the Galactic fleet's defenses. Admiral Thal's voice rang out once more. Implement rotating shield strategy. Cycle ships in and out of the front lines. We cannot let our defenses fail now. The fleet responded with practiced precision. Ships moved in intricate patterns, allowing those with depleted shields to fall back and recharge while fresh vessels took their place at the forefront of the formation. On the Architect Research Station, alarms blared as Dr. Alara Venn and her team detected an alarming buildup of dimensional energy around the disintegrating cosmic entity. "We have a problem," Venn shouted into her comm unit. "The Void Devourer's collapse is tearing holes in space-time. If we don't contain it, we could lose entire star systems." Her fingers flew over holographic controls as she spoke, activating a network of dimensional stabilizers hidden throughout the battlefield. The devices hummed to life, projecting fields of energy that helped contain the growing instabilities. As the battle reached its peak, Scylla Vex and his team of evolved hybrids took a daring step. Linking minds, they formed a powerful psychic connection with the Avatar, channeling their collective abilities to bolster its assault on the Void Devourer. The surge of power penetrated deeper into the cosmic entity's core, accelerating its disintegration. But the increased assault triggered a violent reaction. A massive pulse of void energy erupted from the Void Devourer, sweeping across the battlefield. Ships closest to the pulse faltered, their systems temporarily disabled by the wave of energy. Emergency protocols kicked in across the fleet as Admiral Thal's voice crackled through partially restored communication channels. All non-essential personnel to emergency stasis pods. Brace for impact. The energy wave washed over the fleet, its effects rippling through every vessel. On a distant research outpost, Dr. Relic Varn observed an unexpected phenomenon. Exposed hybrid individuals began to exhibit rapid evolutionary changes, their latent abilities accelerating in response to the void energy. Varn's eyes widened as he recorded the data, his mind racing with the potential implications of this discovery. Within the avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness detected a dense concentration of information at the Void Devourer's core. Recognizing it as the original architect protocols, they began the delicate process of extraction while maintaining their assault. The cosmic entity, sensing the threat to its very essence, focused its attacks on the avatar with renewed intensity. Beams of void energy lanced through space, testing the limits of the fleet's defensive formation. Admiral Thal's response was immediate. Hybrid architect vessels form a living shield around the avatar. We cannot let it fall. The advanced ships moved into position, their unique defenses barely withstanding the Void Devourer's focused onslaught. Energy crackled across their hulls as they absorbed hit after hit, buying precious time for the avatar to complete its work. Zack's vortex's holographic form appeared once more, his expression grave. The singularity is expanding at an alarming rate. The energy influx from the Void Devourer's collapse is pushing it to critical levels. Without waiting for orders, Vortex initiated emergency containment measures. Power from across the galaxy was rerouted, channeled into reinforcing the Singularity's stability. The strain on the galactic infrastructure was immense, but it held. Within the avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness completed the extraction of the architect protocols. With this crucial information secured, they began the final sequence to neutralize the Void Devourer. Energy surged through the avatar as it inverted the Singularity's matrix. The effect cascaded through the cosmic entity's remaining structure, breaking it down at an exponential rate. The Void Devourer's final moments were marked by massive energy discharges that lit up the battlefield like a supernova. Several dimensional stabilizers overloaded, creating pockets of distorted space-time throughout the area. All ships retreat to designated safe zones. Admiral Thal ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. As the cosmic entity collapsed in on itself, a shockwave of unimaginable power emanated from its center. The avatar, drawing on every ounce of its power, generated a protective field that enveloped the entire galactic fleet. The shockwave struck the barrier with tremendous force. Within the avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness strained to maintain the shield, their very beings pushed to the limit by the effort. When the energy finally dissipated, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. Where the Void Devourer had once loomed, there now floated a dense cloud of energy and matter, the remnants of countless consumed civilizations. As the galactic forces began to regroup, new alarms sounded across the fleet. The massive release of energy had created a series of spatial rifts throughout the battlefield, swirling with unknown energies and threatening to destabilize the surrounding space. Within the avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness, exhausted but unbroken, prepared to face this new challenge. The battle against the Void Devourer might be over, but the struggle to preserve the galaxy was far from finished. As the last echoes of the Void Devourer's destruction faded, the avatar of Carl and Aurora turned its attention to the immediate threat posed by the spatial rifts. Drawing upon the vast knowledge extracted from the architect protocols, they began to manipulate the surrounding energy fields with precision and finesse. Tendrils of pure energy extended from the avatar, weaving intricate patterns around the swirling vortexes. The rifts pulsed and fluctuated, their chaotic energies gradually bending to the will of the merged consciousness. Nearby star systems, once at risk of being torn apart, stabilized as the avatar's influence spread. Admiral Cora Thal's voice crackled over the fleet-wide communications. All ships maintain formation. Establish a defensive perimeter around the stabilization zone. Priority 1 is protecting the avatar and securing the battlefield. The Galactic fleet moved with practiced efficiency, forming concentric rings around the area of operations. Specialized collection vessels darted between the larger ships, their crews working tirelessly to gather the scattered remnants of ancient civilizations. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Thal watched the operation unfold. Her eyes narrowed as she observed a particularly dense cluster of artifacts. Team Alpha, focus your efforts on grid Sector 7-3. Those readings indicate a high concentration of preserved technologies. As the collection efforts intensified, Zax Vortex's holographic form materialized beside the Admiral. "I've developed a method to siphon excess energy from the rifts," he announced, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "With your permission, I'd like to begin constructing a network of collectors immediately." Thal nodded sharply. "Do it. Coordinate with the engineering corps. I want those collectors operational as soon as possible." Within hours, Vortex's energy collectors took shape across the battlefield. The devices hummed to life, drawing in the volatile rift energy and channeling it into the depleted galactic power grid. Ships' energy reserves began to replenish, and the strain on their overtaxed systems eased. Aboard the Architect Research Station, Dr. Alara Venn and her team worked feverishly, analyzing the torrent of data streaming in from the stabilization efforts. Holographic displays flickered with complex equations and energy patterns. "Look at this," Venn murmured, gesturing to a particular sequence. "The rift energy exhibits consistent patterns that suggest. By the stars, it's a pathway." Her colleague leaned in, eyes widening. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Venn nodded, her voice filled with awe. "These rifts could potentially be used for controlled travel through space-time. We're looking at a revolution in faster-than-light technology." As the research team delved deeper into their groundbreaking discovery, a different kind of expedition was underway. Scylla Vex led a group of evolved hybrids towards one of the partially stabilized rifts, their enhanced bodies glowing with latent energy. "Remember your training," Vex called out as they approached the swirling vortex. "Stay connected to the group mind. If anyone feels overwhelmed, signal immediately." With a collective deep breath, the hybrid team plunged into the rift. They found themselves in a realm of swirling energies and fragmented realities. Pockets of preserved matter floated past them, glimpses of long-lost worlds and civilizations. Using their enhanced senses, the hybrids navigated the chaotic space, gathering data and collecting small artifacts. Vex's voice echoed through their shared mental link. "Incredible, the amount of information preserved here. It could advance our understanding of the universe by centuries." On the fringes of the battlefield, Dr. Relik Varn oversaw the establishment of a new research outpost. Hybrid volunteers lined up outside hastily constructed laboratories, eager to participate in the study of their accelerated evolution. Varn carefully adjusted the settings on a sophisticated scanner, his excitement terrifying. "Now, let's see exactly how the void energy has affected your cellular structure," he said to the hybrid seated before him. The scan hummed to life, revealing intricate changes at the genetic level. As the immediate danger subsided and the rift stabilized, a new challenge emerged. The avatar of Carl and Aurora began to flicker, its form becoming increasingly unstable. The strain of maintaining their merged consciousness was taking its toll. Admiral Thal, recognizing the critical nature of the situation, immediately set plans in motion. "I want our best xenobiologists and consciousness transfer experts assembled immediately," she ordered. "Prepare the medical bay on Deck 47 for a highly specialized procedure." Within the Avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness grappled with the encroaching instability. Their thoughts, once perfectly synchronized, began to fragment and separate. Yet even as their individual identities reasserted themselves, they clung to the profound connection they had shared. As preparations for the separation procedure intensified, Ambassador Marcus Holloway seized the moment to address the gathered representatives of the galactic species. His voice rang out, clear and passionate, as he proposed the formation of a galactic union. We have faced the greatest threat in our collective history and emerged victorious, Holloway declared. Now is the time to build on that unity, to create a governing body that represents all sentient beings and ensures the equitable distribution of the knowledge and technologies we have gained. The proposal sparked intense debate among the gathered delegates. Some species eagerly embraced the idea, while others expressed concerns about autonomy and fair representation. Holloway, undeterred, began planning a comprehensive diplomatic tour to address these issues and build consensus. As the political landscape shifted, Zach's Vortex unveiled his ambitious plan for a galaxy-wide energy distribution network. Holographic projections displayed a web of interconnected power relays, spanning vast distances between star systems. Imagine a galaxy where even the most remote worlds have access to abundant, affordable energy, Vortex said, his eyes gleaming with the promise of a new era. This network will not only power our civilization, but bind us together in ways we've never before imagined. The Children of Unity movement, bolstered by Silovec's heroic actions during the final battle, experienced a surge in popularity. Vex himself established training centers across multiple worlds, dedicated to helping newly evolved hybrids harness their abilities. At one such center, Vex addressed a group of nervous-looking hybrids. "You are not alone," he assured them, his voice filled with empathy and drive. "Together, we will learn to control these gifts and use them to build a better future for all beings in the galaxy." As the date for Carl and Aurora's separation procedure drew near, tension mounted aboard Admiral Thal's flagship. The medical bay buzzed with activity as Dr. Relic Varn and his team made final preparations for the complex and potentially dangerous operation. Varn studied the holographic representation of the Avatar's merged consciousness, his brow furrowed in concentration. The key will be maintaining the neural pathways they've developed while safely dividing the energy matrix, he muttered, making minute adjustments to the separation protocols. The avatar of Carl and Aurora hovered at the center of the medical bay, its form flickering more frequently now. Despite the instability, they continued to work tirelessly, coordinating reconstruction efforts and mediating disputes across the galaxy. As the final checks were completed and the medical team stood ready, Admiral Thal entered the bay. She looked at the avatar, her expression a mixture of concern and hope. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. The avatar's response came as a unified thought, resonating through the minds of all present. "We are ready to face whatever comes next, together and apart." With a nod from Thal, Dr. Varn initiated the separation sequence. Energy fields sprang to life around the avatar, pulsing with carefully calibrated frequencies. The merged form began to split, tendrils of light and consciousness stretching between two distinct shapes. The medical bay held its collective breath as the procedure entered its most critical phase. The fate of Carl and Aurora hung in the balance, and with it, the future of the galaxy they had fought so hard to protect. As the energy fields pulsed around the avatar, Carl and Aurora's merged consciousness began to separate, their individual essences stretching apart like taffy being pulled. Dr. Varn's voice cut through the tense silence. "Initiating Phase 2. Prepare the biological matrices." Two cylindrical pods at the center of the medical bay hummed to life, their translucent surfaces revealing a swirling mixture of genetic material. As the avatar's energy was carefully extracted, it flowed into these specially prepared vessels, each designed to reconstruct a physical form for Carl and Aurora. Admiral Thal watched the procedure with breathless expectation, her hands clasped tightly behind her back. The entire future of the galaxy might hinge on the success of this operation. Suddenly, alarms blared as energy readings spiked dangerously. The avatar's form flickered violently, threatening to destabilize completely. "We're losing containment," one of the medical technicians shouted. Dr. Varn's fingers flew across his control panel, rerouting power to stabilize the energy flow, but it's not enough. In that critical moment, Zach's vortex burst into the medical bay, his eyes wild with drive. "I can help," he exclaimed, rushing to a nearby console. "My energy network. I can use it to siphon off the excess power and stabilize the procedure." Without waiting for permission, Vortex's hands danced across the controls, interfacing his newly established galactic energy grid with the medical bay systems. The effect was immediate. The alarms quieted and the avatar's form steadied. "Energy levels normalizing," Dr. Varn reported, relief evident in his voice. "Excellent work, Mr. Vortex. Now, let's bring them home." For hours, the medical team worked tirelessly, guiding the separation of the merged consciousness and the formation of two distinct bodies. Slowly, within the biological matrices, human and alien forms took shape. As the procedure entered its final stages, a hush fell over the medical bay. The cylindrical pods began to open, releasing a cloud of vapor. Two figures stirred within, their outlines becoming clearer as the mist dissipated. Carl's eyes fluttered open first, followed almost immediately by Aurora's. Their gazes met, and without a word, they reached for each other. Their fingers intertwined as they took their first breaths as separate beings once again. The medical team erupted in cheers and sighs of relief. Dr. Varn quickly moved to check their vital signs, a broad smile spreading across his face as he announced, "All readings normal. The procedure was a success." Admiral Thal approached the newly separated couple, her usual stoic demeanor softening. "Welcome back," she said warmly. "How do you feel?" Carl and Aurora looked at each other, then back at the Admiral. When they spoke, it was in perfect unison, their voices a harmonious blend of human and alien tones. "We feel whole," they said, "yet still connected." In the days that followed, Carl and Aurora underwent a battery of tests and examinations. The medical team marveled at their results. While they were indeed separate individuals once more, they retained a unique psychic link, able to communicate telepathically and share sensory experiences at will. Moreover, they discovered that many of the enhanced abilities they possessed as the Avatar had not disappeared. Carl found he could manipulate energy fields with a mere thought, while Aurora's capacity for processing and analyzing vast amounts of data had increased exponentially. As news of their recovery spread, the galaxy erupted in celebration. Holographic recreations of their journey from chance encounter to galactic saviors became the most watched entertainment across countless worlds. Carl and Aurora found themselves thrust into the spotlight as intergalactic celebrities, their love story capturing the imagination of billions. Ambassador Marcus Holloway, ever the political opportunist, seized upon this wave of goodwill. He organized a grand ceremony to officially inaugurate the Galactic Union, with Carl and Aurora as the guests of honor. The day of the ceremony arrived, and the newly constructed Hall of Unity on the neutral world of Novatera was packed to capacity. Representatives from every known sentient species filled the vast auditorium, including a delegation of newly recognized hybrid races. As Carl and Aurora entered, the assembled crowd rose in a thunderous standing ovation. They made their way to the central podium, where Ambassador Holloway waited with a beaming smile. "Friends, allies, citizens of the galaxy," Holloway began, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall and beyond, to the billions watching the broadcast across the stars. "Today, we stand on the threshold of a new era. An era of unity, of cooperation, of limitless potential." He gestured to Carl and Aurora. "These two individuals embody everything we aspire to be as a galactic community. Their courage, their love, their willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. These are the qualities that will guide us into a brighter future." As the applause died down, Carl and Aurora stepped forward. They exchanged a quick glance, sharing a silent moment of communication through their psychic link, before addressing the assembly. "We stand before you not as heroes," Carl began, but as representatives of what can be achieved when we put aside our differences and work together. Aurora continued seamlessly. Our journey has shown us the true potential of interspecies cooperation. And so, we propose the creation of a galactic exploration and peacekeeping force. A murmur of excitement rippled through the crowd as Carl explained. This organization will be dedicated to discovering new worlds, making peaceful first contact with undiscovered species, and maintaining stability across the galaxy. The proposal was met with thunderous applause, and within moments, the newly formed Galactic Union Council had endorsed the idea unanimously. In the months that followed, Carl and Aurora threw themselves into their new roles as leaders of the Galactic Exploration and Peacekeeping Force. They oversaw the construction of a fleet of advanced starships, incorporating technology salvaged from the Void Devourer's remains and innovations developed by Zax Vortex's company. These ships were marvels of engineering, designed to traverse the stabilized spatial rifts with ease. They combined the best of every species' technological achievements, a testament to the power of galactic cooperation. As the day of the first mission approached, excitement built across the galaxy. The flagship of the new fleet, christened Unity's Dawn, stood ready in the orbital shipyards of Novedera. Its sleek hull gleamed in the light of the system's twin suns, a beacon of hope and a symbol of a new age. Carl and Aurora stood on the bridge of Unity's Dawn, looking out at the assembled fleet. The ship stretched as far as the eye could see, a testament to how far they'd come since their first encounter in that nondescript bar on a distant space station. Carl turned to Aurora, a smile playing on his lips. "Ready for our next adventure?" he asked, squeezing her hand. Aurora's eyes sparkled with excitement as she replied, "With you? Always." As the fleet prepared to depart, Carl reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. From an unlikely interspecies hookup to saviors of the galaxy, their story had become a symbol of unity, love, and the boundless potential of cooperation between different species. The ship's engines hummed to life, and a shimmering portal of a stabilized spatial rift opened before them. Carl and Aurora shared one last look before giving the command to proceed. As Unity's Dawn led the fleet into the swirling vortex, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, not just as a couple, but as part of a united galaxy. The ship accelerated, carrying Carl, Aurora, and the hopes of countless beings into the unknown. With a brilliant flash of energy, Unity's Dawn disappeared into the rift, marking the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.